Yes! Hello, my beautiful friends, and welcome back. Happy Friday and happy Halloween. Very glad that you're joining us here today a little bit early so that everybody can get out there tricking and treating, as it were. We've got a great live stream planned ahead. Quick preview on what's coming up, then we'll dive in. We got 5 segments. Wow, we got a lot of stuff to cover, baby. We're excited about it. And we're going to start off getting in the mood. We got some Halloween activities and including some trick or treating at the White House. And so I've got a bunch of clips queued up from last night, some fun stuff as well. We also see that today Kash Patel announced that there was a terror attack that was percolating around, and he just posted this morning. Oh gosh, and apparently I X'd out of that one. Here it is. So here's Kash Patel. He's the one who said that there was a terror attack that was about to come through, and not good. So we'll go through that. We'll see what the latest is, but they have averted it, and we're waiting for some more information on that. So we'll get into that. Then we've got some Jack Smith news, because you can see we got Verizon and AT&T who have both responded to the demands from Chuck Grassley. Chuck Grassley wants to know, why did you give our information over to Jack Smith and his crew of thugs? And we got two responses. Verizon has a big fat explanation for what they did and why they did it, and we'll go through it. But AT&T didn't give over the materials. And this is very interesting because Verizon did, and Jack Smith basically folded. He crumbled. He said, AT&T, give us the records. And AT&T said, how about no? And then he said, okay, you're right. We're wrong. We're illegal. You're right. And Verizon didn't do that. So we're going to go through this and see what the latest is. Marsha Blackburn is also saying we need to dig into these phone companies and all of the people who are complicit in this infrastructure attack against America and the Republican Party. So all that coming up. We got some Tish news because we had this woman called Marley Hornick who is now suing Letitia James on behalf of Real America Vote. And it's an interesting filing that we'll go through. And they just had a full press briefing on this. I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago. And we pulled up the lawsuit and we'll go through it courtesy of realamerica.vote and see what the latest is against Tish James. We got the whole thing queued up right here. And you can see it's a 52 pager. And they're saying all sorts of serious problems are happening there in New York with their counting, with their vote classification, with their technology, with their algorithms, counting double votes. And we've got a pretty big election coming up in New York very soon. So we're going to go through this lawsuit, see what the latest is. Then we'll talk about this SNAP emergency. Look at all these states that have now come out and said that we're issuing an emergency. 14 states saying that they're going to come out and pay for food for a bunch of Americans. 42 million apparently set to lose their food stamps tomorrow, November 1st, in the blink of an eye. So lots of reaction to this. I got some clips queued up of protesters and this person who is very upset that she's not getting her food stamps. And then we had a bunch of people come to the White House yesterday, and JD Vance was dropping nuggets saying we've got to open up the government if you want to feed these people and keep the planes flying. So all that, and then we'll wrap up the day with a Kamala Goes Wild segment because, man, she has unloaded. Bunch of clips here, and she explains in this clip that Joe Biden called her right before the debate and then talked all about himself. And she was pretty rattled. We're so lucky that she wasn't the president. I got some clips queued up of her and others saying certain things on podcasts and more. So we'll get into all of it. We got a bunch of stuff queued up. It's going to be a beautiful day, my friends, and we're very glad that you're here and with us. Now, before we get into anything, I do want to mention a new book. This is not a promo or anything like that, other than we are promoting this book because we believe in it. This is called The Whistleblowers versus the Big Guy. It is now available for pre-order. I've got the Amazon link down in the description below, but they also are available at truthversuspower.com. And let me cue that up just so I can show you. I thought I had that open up, but truthvpower.com. You can go over there, get the book. If you're not familiar with these guys, we've talked about a lot of them. We've talked with their lawyers from the Empower Oversight group. But these two guys, Joe Ziegler and Gary Shapley, this book is now available for pre-order, and it's all about basically the Biden cover up and how these dudes were working inside the government. And then they got attacked by the Biden administration and kind of sidelined when they started calling out the Hunter Biden scam, and they blew the lid off the whole thing. And so I just got this. It's available for pre-order. I think it comes out November 11th. But we really want to support our whistleblowers. I mean, these guys were very, very important and instrumental in the last election for breaking the news, explaining all of the cover up. It kind of derailed the whole David Weiss case with Hunter Biden. It was massive. So they've got a book available. Chuck Grassley, Miranda Devine, James Comer. Look at all these people endorsing it. Catherine Herridge, man, she's awesome. And Jim Jordan. Look at all these people. So it's available. Links to Amazon in the description below, or you can just go straight to Truth v Power, and check it out. Shout out to Gary Shapley and Joseph Ziegler for getting it done. And I met the two dudes too when I was over in DC. Very good dudes. And we're happy that they're truth tellers. So check their book out. And thanks for letting me plug that so that we can support our amazing whistleblowers. Before we jump into things, let's take a look at the presidential schedule. It's pretty light over there. Friday, October 31st. Happy Halloween, everybody. We've got the president who's going to be leaving this afternoon, heading over to Palm Beach, Florida. And there's some rumors, some murmurings that we might be in the middle of a military attack down in South America. So that's all happening today. We'll see if that happens, but he's leaving about 10 this morning to go over to Palm Beach. So pretty quiet day over at the White House is what we'll see when we saw the president out yesterday doing some Halloween stuff. But we also then over on C-SPAN, looks like it's going to be a pretty light day today. Let's just do a refresh to see if there's anything live cooking right now. Pretty quiet. I think it's mostly holiday stuff. Yeah, so some conversations. Johnson was out. Snap, shutdown. We got all that queued up. And so let's talk some Halloween stuff. Kash Patel announcing that this morning, the FBI thwarted a potential terror attack and arrested multiple subjects in Michigan. We're going to learn it's Dearborn, who were allegedly plotting a violent attack over the holiday weekend, Halloween weekend. Not good. Thanks to the men and women of the FBI and law enforcement everywhere, standing guard 24/7 and crushing our mission to defend the homeland. So good news over there. A little bit more follow-up on this from NBC News says the FBI foiled a potential terrorist attack in Michigan. Police in Dearborn, Michigan. Oh, yeah. Says we're about to carry out an operation and the FBI interfered with it. Says multiple suspects were arrested. Kash Patel made the statement. 4 senior law enforcement officials familiar with the case said the FBI in Detroit apprehended a group of young individuals, took them into custody today, who were plotting some form of attack with a possible reference to Halloween. So be safe out there. Those officials say the group has a nexus to some form of foreign extremism, but did not say if it was ISIS, Al-Qaeda, or some other similar ideology. Officials stress there's no current threat to the public. One official says some of the arrests occurred in Dearborn and Inkster, Michigan. Law enforcement was able to monitor the group in the greater Detroit area in the past several days at a minimum to ensure there was no actual attack. And the arrest took place in Dearborn, cities outside of Detroit. Dearborn police confirmed this morning that, yep, that happened. They say the Dearborn Police Department has been made aware that the FBI conducted operations in the city of Dearborn earlier this morning. So I guess they weren't involved in it. But it involves federal charges and arrests. All the documents are sealed. Currently, we'll keep our eye on that, of course. But let's also check in on the Democrats in Congress. Oh, no, they disappeared. They're not working on the shutdown. White House posting, ghosted. Democrats disappear on the American people when they need them most. Look at these just ghosts and ghouls floating around Congress. Yeah. I think that's what they want most of America to look like, right? Just kind of like dead people all over the place and the buildings in a decrepit, destroyed fashion. So the White House is poking fun at the Democrats. Meanwhile, President Trump and Melania were out on Halloween, and I got a couple of good clips. Let's take a look at some costumes together, shall we? Rapid Response had a bunch of these clips, and they were out last night doing this. Here is what we saw from the White House. Man, good tunes. All right, so Trump and Melania coming out. Nice entrance. And I think that's a live band out there. So we got some kids. What are these children? Don't know. Probably something from a movie. We got princesses, I think, probably. Disney, race car driver, guy with a pencil. What is that kid? Oh, gosh, I'm out of it. All right, so that is one clip. We had a couple of other fun ones come through, and Trump and Melania are now handing out candy. So here's a short clip. This guy was coming in with a wide load. What does this kid have? Wide load. Anybody? I might need some help on these. What is that? Wide load? Is that a toilet? Is that a dump truck? What is coming out of the front of that thing? I don't know what that is. All right, so that was that one. Couple more, and we saw this one was here. Everyone's giving hugs. President Trump hugging the kids. And this woman is in a police outfit. I wonder if we're going to see any ICE kids, conducting arrests. All right, so they're going through there. Lots of hugs. Here, have some candy, son. Oh, that was a Star Wars character. I recognize that one pretty good. All right, so then we had a couple more. Now, you may remember that during the first term in 2019, we saw this epic scene. I mean, this was from 2019. Okay, so this is not recent. But we had, remember, Time and the media went nuts. They said Trump put a candy bar on a kid's head. Remember? And here is what happened basically at 2019, 6 years ago to the day, almost. Okay, this is 2019. Spider-Man. Perfect. Couple Spider-Mans. Minion comes up. Plop right there on the head. There you go. Young man. Nice costume. All right, then the candy slides off into that little girl's. And they're laughing. And Melania's like, what's going on? And the kid doesn't even know where he is. Oh, Pirates theme song. Yeah, good one. All right, so you see that happened in 2019, and then we fast forward to today, and guess what? The president strikes again. Here's what happened outside the White House. Oh no, right on the head. He did it again to the lamp kid. All right, so here it is one more time. He did it again. No, it's going on your head. Yeah, it's going on your head. All right, move on. Move along. All right, so, the president will never let go on a good head candy Halloween extravaganza. So I don't know how long he's been doing this. It might just be a thing, of Trump just putting candy on the heads. So here's another iconic photo that the White House posted on this one right there. Look at that beauty right there. Nice placement, sir, Mr. President. Well done. That kid doesn't even know what that means. It's like being knighted with a sword on the shoulder. I dub thee Halloween candy head. And he just moves on. Beautiful, beautiful scene. White House, of course, paying homage to this tremendous honor for that young man. But we'll probably have some lefties. I can't believe he's so disrespectful for these children. Put the candy in the basket. What kind of a fascist are you? All right. So, of course, a fun time over there. And here was a little bit more. This young little girl, this is pretty cute. She doesn't even know, she's talking to the president. She's like, hey, I just want some candy, man. You didn't give me a candy bar. Here's what's going on here. Look at this little girl. Excuse me. Tap, tap, tap. Mr. President. Hello. I'm here. Oh, sorry, sweetheart. Here you go. Have some candy. She just goes. All right. So that's pretty fun. And that's happening at the White House. So we got the one final costume. Then we'll jump into some other things. But look what this family came in. A McDonald's drive-thru. Look at that. Trump's like, my favorite. I'll have a Diet Coke, a quarter pounder, and an extra large fry. All right, so happy Halloween, everybody. So that's over at the White House. A little bit of a roundup there and some fun times going on. So Trump, he's probably like, oh, he's probably putting on the outfit. Oh, perfect. We're back. Let's do this. And it was a good time over there to be had by all. All right, so thanks for indulging in the Halloween festivities. They're having a good time and heading down to Mar-a-Lago for the weekend. And now we've got some serious business to attend to now that we're warmed up over here. So let's get right to it and talk about Jack Smith. Jack Smith crumbled when AT&T pushed back on his little spying scam. We now have documents that have been released from Chuck Grassley that show the responses to Chuck Grassley's letter. Remember, 8 U.S. senators and 1 representative got spied on by Jack and his thugs, and they demanded to know why Verizon and why AT&T gave them those records when there's all sorts of protections that should have prohibited that from happening. And so we've got 2 letters here that have come out. One, as you can see, is from AT&T over here in the top left. The other one is coming out from Verizon right here. Now, the Verizon letter is much bigger than the AT&T letter because the AT&T letter confirms they didn't give anything over. And Ted Cruz confirmed that to us when he came out from the Senate Judiciary Committee and said, yep, Judge Boasberg approved a subpoena to get my phone records, and then AT&T rejected that. And so they're responding now from Verizon. They have to explain, because Verizon did hand over a bunch of records, why they did that. But of course, this is one of the letters that also came in, and look who signed off on this one. So AT&T sent this one in response, and look at this judge's name right here. Judge Boasberg, there it is in writing. And we're going to go through it, but a little bit of background here from Just the News. They say, Senate Judiciary Chairman Grassley and his office yesterday released Verizon and AT&T's responses to Jack Smith's subpoenas. Recent documents have shown that they investigated hundreds of Trump allies. We saw over 400 Republicans, 197 subpoenas, 1,700 pages of documents, a total insane dragnet all over America. New records from Verizon and AT&T show how Verizon was willing to just, here you go. But AT&T objected, and once they did, Jack Smith crumbled like a little baby. Both companies were also given non-disclosure orders, which were signed by Judge James Boasberg, who should be impeached immediately, who ordered the companies not to even notify the senators and the lawmakers that they did this. Now, we're going to read through the letters and get into it, but Grassley provided the names of the lawmakers who were targeted. Looks like 10 senators in total, including Marsha Blackburn and Senator Rick Scott. But some of the records weren't delivered, as we'll see. So here is the letter back to Chuck Grassley, which he has now released. He says, from AT&T to Chuck Grassley, like, hey, sorry about, we got your letter. We know you're not happy about this. We know Tuberville is saying everybody belongs in jail. We know Marsha Blackburn is going to be coming after us in a minute. But here is our response. All right, Chuck, from AT&T. This letter responds to your October 11th letter to John Stanky regarding subpoenas sent by Jack Smith seeking phone records of members of Congress. We have received similar inquiries, both formal and informal, from the offices of other members, and we trust the following information is helpful. Okay, so it's like everybody is sending us letters. All right, all the senators or House representatives. Lindsey Graham, why did you give them my records? Now, here's what they say. Based on a review of our records, AT&T did not receive subpoenas from Jack Smith for phone records of the 9 members of Congress named in your letter. So we're trying to figure out the full universe of everybody. Most of the Congress people, the senators, it sounds like, are with Verizon. In May 2023, special counsel illegitimate Jack Smith sent AT&T a grand jury subpoena that included a request for phone records associated with AT&T accounts for 2 other members of Congress. However, when AT&T raised questions with Jack Smith's office about the legal basis for seeking these records of members of Congress, the special counsel did not pursue the subpoena further. And no records were produced because they knew it was illegal. Jack did, but he still moved forward with Verizon. And Verizon, their pathetic counsel, whatever was going on over there, or let's be clear, I would not doubt that there were people in Verizon's legal team that were very interested in helping Jack Smith. So they overlooked this clear illegality. AT&T said, oh no, what's your basis for this, Jack? And he's like, on second thought, actually, we don't really need it anymore. We're not going to look for it anymore. He said, yeah, get out. Come back when you have lawful purpose. And no records were produced to him. So why did Verizon give the others over? And who was a part of that decision process? We're going to come to that. For your convenience, attached is a copy of that subpoena and the associated non-disclosure order, which expired May 24. So in short, Chuck, based on our review of our files, AT&T has not produced any records or other information to illegitimate Jack relating to any member of Congress named in your letter, or for that matter, any member of Congress. So AT&T shout out, well done. They didn't buckle to Jack Smith's pressure. Somebody was smart enough over there to say, these are senators. Like, this could backfire on us bigly. And there are rules that say you can't do this. So that came out from David Chor Zempa, and they copied all of these people. So all of these senators and representatives now get notice about this, but they released the document, and we wanted to see the document so that we could parse together how these subpoenas actually got approved and sent out for all of these U.S. Congress people. And here is what came out from Jack Smith. So this is May 25th, 2023, from Jack Smith, illegitimate special counsel, not a real boy, not lawfully appointed, not lawfully confirmed by the Senate, and appropriating tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars illegally. He sent this to people over at AT&T before they told him to shove it. They say, dear sir or madam, we're in lieu of personally appearing before a grand jury, we need some records, and signed by some hack from Jack Smith's team. I wonder who it was. Who signed it? Here's the order. This comes over in an application for a grand jury subpoena going into the District of Columbia. We know who resides over there. It's Judge Boasberg, the hack judge who has repeatedly overstepped his judicial bounds to interfere with the executive branch. It's not just me saying that. It's the Supreme Court who said, you were wrong. And he had to go back and then revise himself and then find some other excuse to call Trump and his DOJ as people who committed contempt. So he signs off on it. And we don't even know what Jack Smith presented to him that would justify the basis for non-disclosure, for not even telling the senators about this. He says, this matter comes before my court. There was an application directing a provider, AT&T, to not to notify any other person of the existence of this subpoena issued on behalf of a federal grand jury impaneled in D.C., right? The court finds reasonable grounds to believe that such disclosure, if you tell them about this subpoena, it will result, will result, not may, right? It's saying that Ted Cruz, who's, the subject of one of these subpoenas, Ted Cruz will destroy the evidence. Ted will tamper with the evidence. He might intimidate potential witnesses, and it could cause serious jeopardy to the investigation. What was the evidence that was presented on that Ted Cruz, a senator for like decades, is going to be an open criminal? And why would the judge make that decision? Or is that an abuse of his discretion and misconduct that warrants impeachment? Obviously it does. This is just beginning. Now, it is therefore ordered that the provider and its employees shall not disclose the existence of the subpoena to any other person except attorneys for provider, for AT&T, for the purpose of receiving legal advice for 1 year, unless the period of disclosure is later modified, further ordered, and stamped by Judge James Boasberg, who we've seen, after Trump got elected, has been doing everything he can to stop the president from executing his duties as the president. So it's just a pattern, right? It's part and parcel of the same operation that we've been seeing from the very beginning when Jack Smith was originally appointed. So that came out May 25th, 2023. Trump has already announced, and they need to take out the entire apparatus. So he says, yep, here's a subpoena. Clerk signed off on it. It says, dear AT&T, please see the attachment. We want everything that you have and provide this information to us. Here's our request for communications and content. And they say, we got a grand jury subpoena. It's compelled to disclosure. Okay, you have to give us this stuff because the judge said so. And you can't tell any of our elected officials about it. And they have a form for the custodian to sign off when he delivers the records. And here's what they want. Now, we don't know exactly who this one is for with the following identifiers, but they want subscriber information, names and addresses. They want everything. Okay, and this is probably the same form that Jack was submitting over to Verizon, and he was getting all of this stuff, I would imagine, from them. They want subscriber information, names, subscriber names, usernames, screen names, all addresses, all call detail records, okay? Everything. All inbound and outbound calls, all text messages, all direct connect, voicemail messages, the length of the service, means and sources of payments. What credit cards did they use? What bank accounts did they use? And they're just going to follow the bouncing ball. And this, oh, okay, so now we have this, and he had a bad call. He called Alex Jones or something. And so we think that Alex Jones, blah, and they just follow the line. And maybe there was a payment that they need to investigate. Oh, what is that payment for? And they go investigate that, get a subpoena for the bank. And it's just a full enema of all of the senators. Telephone or instrument numbers, MAC addresses, all the identity numbers, records of session times and durations, temporarily assigned network addresses, IP addresses, and other information, basically everything. So in lieu of a personal appearance, you can just email us those documents, says Jack's goons, and we'll be happy about it. But AT&T didn't do it. AT&T said, no. What's your basis for that, Jack? We said, hey, actually, we raised questions with Jack Smith's office. What is your legal basis for this? They didn't respond anymore because they knew they didn't have a legal basis and they all broke the law. They should all be in jail, including Boasberg. So here's eventually, impeached and prosecuted, and he deserves the presumption of innocence. Then he can go to jail. But here is what Verizon had to say. And let's remind ourselves. Remember, President Trump got prosecuted on January 6th by Jack Smith for conspiracy against rights, for conspiracy to defraud the United States. Those were two charges that he got charged with. It's exactly what these people are doing. It's a conspiracy against the rights of the senators. It's a conspiracy to defraud the United States. They're all involved in it. Hit him with a RICO, I don't care. But this was a long pattern. They all were having fake excuses as to why they could do these things. AT&T didn't comply with Judge Boasberg's illegal order. Jack Smith was an illegal not a U.S. attorney, illegally appointed, illegally apportioned individual. Boasberg knew it. Merrick Garland knew it. Jack Smith knew it. And they all engaged in a conspiracy against the rights of sitting senators. And so hopefully they understand that concept. So here's Verizon now. Verizon is also responding. And they say, oops, we have a lot more to say about this, because we actually did disclose the records. So they sent this one back over to Chuck Grassley, same day. It's interesting. I wonder if they coordinated that. But he says, all right, Chuck Grassley, this one's a 5-pager. They say, okay, we're in trouble. I write in response to the letter that you sent to our CEO, Chuck, which we read through those here. Your letter inquired about the legal process that Verizon received from Jack Smith about 9 congressional members on September 27, 2023, that probably mirrors the same subpoena and format and signature from Boasberg. From the FBI, and that was publicly released in redacted form. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to provide additional information. So we know that you have a bunch of records. Let us explain. We appreciate the importance of these issues and recognize your valid concerns about the Senate's ability to perform its constitutional functions. Now, our research, says Verizon, into the legal process that we received related to the FBI identified a grand jury subpoena dated May 25, 2023, which I think was the exact same date of this subpoena. What was this one? May 25, 2023. So I bet Boasberg is just signing all of them. Just go and go get it. So we got that May 25th from a DOJ attorney, still don't know who was assigned to Jack Smith's office, which was completely illegitimate. The subpoena listed 12 telephone numbers, but did not include the names or any other information about the users of the telephones. In reviewing the subscriber information for the 12 numbers, it appears that this subpoena is related to the FBI electronic communication. It requested subscriber information and call detail records for the period between J4 and J7-21. It did not include a request for surveillance or seek the content of the communications. Any such request would have required a warrant, which we did not receive. No, but you still gave him information illegally. Additionally, the subpoena included a non-disclosure order signed by a federal district judge called Boasberg, which required Verizon not to tell anyone. We're just following the law. Yeah. Verizon is required by law, when served with a valid grand jury subpoena, to give the information under U.S. code. Now, subpoenas generally do not include information that explain the facts, circumstances, or the subject. That was the case here. The subpoenas often include just the telephone number. That's all. And so Verizon, as part of our commitment to privacy, we have a team that carefully reviews each subpoena to ensure that it's facially valid. And they're like, oh yeah, perfect. All these, lib lawyers probably on their team are sitting around going, oh, Ted Cruz? Perfect, get him. Oh, Marsha Blackburn? Yeah. Tommy Tuberville? Yeah, get him. The subpoena we received was facially valid. Yeah. And we produced information as a result. Well, that's interesting. Did you get more than AT&T got? Because they said it wasn't valid. And they're also in the business of telecommunications. Nonetheless, with the benefit of hindsight and informed by Verizon's discussion with Senate leadership over the year, going forward, we're going to make the following changes to our practices because you caught us with the hand in the cookie jar. Total scam. Escalation, they say, well, law enforcement demands for records. Here's the changes we're going to make after we violated the right to privacy and the separation of powers and federal law by handing over these records to Jack Smith's goons. They say law enforcement demands for records related to a line known to be associated with the sergeant at arms will be escalated to our legal department. These weren't escalated to the legal department, so they just have a bunch of maybe non-lawyers who are like, does it check the boxes? Does it look like it's signed by a judge? Oh, looks good. Fill the request. And senior leaders who are empowered to intervene before the records are produced. We'll work with Senate leadership to identify the non-lines that are personal and campaign lines so that we don't give records from senators. Note that Verizon often does not independently know what lines are whatever. Verification. Upon receipt of a law enforcement demands, we're going to contact the law enforcement agency or the prosecutor to verify that they wanted these records of a Senate member account. Say, are you sure? This is a senator. If the law enforcement demand does not include a non-disclosure order and it comes through to our desk, we will provide notice to the subscriber and they can challenge the enforcement demand. And for non-Senate member accounts, we'll also work with the sergeant at arms to provide more notice. They're also going to give more notice. All of this is like, yeah, sorry, we're very sorry. We're going to make some very important changes and we promise this isn't going to happen again. Okay, that's fine. We want to know why you did it, and the people who did it should be held responsible. For other law enforcement demands, we will provide notice to the subscriber and work with the Senate sergeant at arms. It's like, okay, great. On that, we'll continue this practice and notify subscribers, and we've made these changes. In February 2025, once they realize that Trump won and he's going to be coming in and all this is probably going to be coming out, based on discussions, we established a process to identify future legal process related to Senate lines. Now, in addition, this summer, at the request of the Senate Sergeant at Arms, Verizon researched whether it had received legal process over the prior 4 years for any other Senate lines. We did identify the process for 15 lines. The May 25th subpoena from Jack was not on that list, even though 2 numbers that are Senate lines were included in that subpoena. This was a mistake due to human error recently discovered while researching the subpoena. What was the mistake? We understand the importance of these issues and regret the error. Oh man, we regret the error. I'm so sick of these companies because they also just happened, due to clerical error, lose the pipe bomber data on that key moment, like that key 12-hour window. Somebody was going to copy it and send it to the FBI, all corrupted. Human error. Oops. Verizon will make a disclosure with this and other information. Your letter inquired as to the information that Verizon provided. On June 6, Verizon produced records for all but one of the telephone numbers, gave them everything. Verizon produced subscriber information and call detail records pertaining to the date range. The records included everything: billing statements, subscriber name and address, account number, bill amount, type of mobile device, time, date, duration of the calls. Lindsey Graham's freaking out. Made during the 4 days within the subpoena's range. The originating and receiving telephone numbers for each call, the city and state of the cell tower that initially connected the calling. The subscriber information also included in the account, contact info, method of payment, names of authorized account users, length of service, type of phone, phone number, device identifiers, everything for all the senators shifted right over to Jack's closet. Now, your letter also inquired whether the subpoena was accompanied by a non-disclosure order, whether the affected congressional members were notified, whether the order is still in place, why the affected members were not notified. Now, as noted, they said, well, the judge said it's a non-disclosure order, and so we just did it. This NDO prohibited us from notifying anyone, and so we didn't. Accordingly, we did not notify the relevant members because a hack judge like Boasberg signed off on it. The NDO Verizon received was dated and it was effective 1 year. And so we don't know if the government extended it or not. So your letter inquired whether congressional members other than the 9 that you listed that were the subject of the subpoenas that we know about also were included. The subpoena did include a telephone number, which based on our research over the past few days appears to be a consumer line, not one procured through the Senate Sergeant-at-Arms contract with Verizon. That's why they're all on Verizon, because they probably get free cell phones used by a congressional member not listed on the FBI's electronic communication. So maybe even overbroad, asked for somebody that they shouldn't have been asking for. The May 25 subpoena also included a Senate landline telephone number that appears to be currently assigned to a congressional member who's not even in the FBI communication. There were no records in this range for Verizon to produce with respect to that landline telephone number. And who was that? And why did Jack Smith try to go tap the phones of a Senate landline from the executive branch? It was run by Joe Biden. Merrick Garland admitted that he was not lawfully appointed by the president. There's no independent special counsel branch. So he worked for Joe. And they were spying on Republican senators. And now Verizon's like, yeah, we gave them everything. Your letter requested that Verizon provide you with the legal process that Verizon received, the NDO, and all other things. The NDO itself was filed under seal, so nobody could see it because they're cowards, unless otherwise ordered by the court. And why would the court unseal any of this? Okay, all this, by the way, has been provided to us via whistleblowers, according to Ron Johnson, the senator. So it's not coming out from internal documents. We have people who are giving and leaking these documents to Congress. A lot of it is still under seal. Of course, the FBI and the DOJ should be in possession of Jack Smith's original request, and they could disclose all of that to us. Hopefully they are working on that. The DOJ would know, and they say that right there, the DOJ would know about the subpoena and the NDO, whether they remain under seal. They should have the files. So we say from Robert S. Fisher, Senior Vice President for Relations and Public Affairs, I don't give this a high mark. We look forward to continuing to collaborate with the Senate on these important issues, and we can provide your staff with additional updates. Don't hesitate to reach out to us. First of all, their contract should be canceled with Verizon immediately. Whatever that Senate Sergeant-at-Arms contract is, like, you're done. And Verizon, the people who were involved in this process should be hauled in front of a committee, just like the Watergate hearings, and ask questions. Names of everybody who was in the approval process. And what was their bias? What was their partisanship? Because this was a conspiracy against the rights of the senators in an effort to attack Trump and Republicans, which was a conspiracy against our rights as well. And so hopefully we're getting some very, very close scrutiny on this. But Marsha Blackburn was out earlier this week talking specifically about Verizon. She said, why didn't Verizon challenge the subpoena? We just saw AT&T did. And as soon as they did, Jack Smith backed down because he knew he didn't have a basis for it. It was illegal. Their lawyers at AT&T said, are you crazy? We're not doing that. Are you nuts? But Verizon just wanted to hand it over because they probably had an ulterior motive in the outcome of the disclosure. Here's Marsha says, these phone carriers and companies are complicit in Jack's spying scandal, and they owe the American people answers.
I'm one of those senators that did have their records revealed. Verizon is my wireless carrier, and Verizon never challenged, never moved to quash. They complied with the subpoena that went forward on our records. Now, Ted talked about the speech and debate clause. This is also a violation of our First Amendment and Fourth Amendment rights. It is a violation of the separation of powers. It is a violation of the Stored Communications Act. I am looking forward to bringing Jack Smith before us. I am looking forward to bringing the wireless companies before us and finding out exactly what happened. No citizen of the United States should ever be subject to treatment like this.
No, they shouldn't. And many have. And the senators weren't too upset about that until their phones got gobbled up in the Jack Smith scam. But I hope that they put their money where their mouth is, man. And I hope they drag all these people in, because I can just envision it. They're just sitting there. Well, oh no, well, we did our job. It looks like it's signed by a judge. There's nothing we can do. Here you go, Jack. Good luck. That is completely inappropriate, and they should be investigated accordingly. Now, we also see that based on disclosures that we've covered this week, FBI says a 22-year veteran is now gone, being pushed out, according to sources. Kash Patel saying, we're cleaning house, forcing out the special agent in charge whose name appeared in documents recently released by Senate Republicans that we've talked about. The agent's name is called Aaron Tapp, had been named to the post in San Antonio just last year. 22-year FBI veteran who specialized in fraud and financial crimes. It was not immediately clear whether he would be allowed to retire or fired. He could not be reached for comment. The FBI doesn't comment on their personnel matters. But they say this is the latest example in a purge of everybody who was a part of this criminal scandal. Arctic Frost was the FBI's code name for the fake investigation into Trump that was led by the partisan Timothy Tebow that Jack Smith inherited after they told everybody that this was independent investigation. He just adopted it. Senate Republicans explain 197 subpoenas, 400 plus Republicans. And the prosecutor who also oversaw the Jack Smith investigation has said, I followed the law. But Tapp's name appears on a list of FBI leaders who oversaw Arctic Frost by the Oversight Project. They call it far right. Give me a break. Is it accurate? It is. And this is MSNBC, just to be clear. During the investigation, and they get leaks from the FBI. So anytime something bad happens at the FBI, they just go cry to MSNBC. And then MSNBC's like, they're career FBI agents, 22 years. No one cares. That's a good oh, it's from Ken Delanian. Okay, so there you go. All right, so bye. You're fired. Get out of here. We don't want you anymore. And stop crying about your 22 years of service. That means you've got 22 years of working in a corrupt entity and becoming corrupted in that same entity. So you're fired or forced to resign, hopefully fired, get out. But Byron Donald says, with all of this happening, it's time to impeach Judge Boasberg. We saw his name on the subpoenas, and there is momentum growing around this effort. Here's what Byron had to say over on Fox Business.
We should know. Number one, I think it was Judge Boasberg was the judge who signed off on all this stuff. He needs to lose his seat as a judge. Right. That needs to go. Number two, they need to be called into Congress. But the third part is, because Congress will happen, we'll do that stuff. The Department of Justice is really going to have to go through this. And if there were criminal violations, they have to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. This is worse than Watergate. As much as everybody wants to talk about Watergate and everything around Richard Nixon, this is significantly worse because while they were using the judicial system to go after their political rival, they were also in the background protecting Joe Biden from the American people with the auto pen investigation and then silencing the American people through social media, strong-arming media companies to silence the voices of Americans. This is the most corrupt presidential administration, the Biden administration, in the history of our country. Heads need to roll.
That's right, man. Byron Donalds is exactly right. And he made a good point that they were not only prosecuting Republicans and unleashing hell on 400 plus entities, 197 subpoenas, the list goes on, senators, House representatives, landlines, and more, but they were also covering up for Joe. And the whistleblowers, Joseph and Gary, who wrote this book called Whistleblowers versus the Big Guy, available at Truth versus Power, truthvpower.com, or on Amazon. They explained exactly that Biden was covering up. These people were exposing the cover up of the Biden crime. So they were creating crimes against Republicans and protecting their own people against their own crimes. And we're, of course, very happy to see that the Senate is now on the case. We'll keep our eye on this. More documents are going to be coming out, and we want answers on who was complicit in this massive conspiracy against America. Thanks for subscribing and joining as we do. Now, we're not done yet. We got a bunch more to get to today, my friends. And now it's Tishy time. We've got a lawsuit filed against Letitia. Letitia James hit with a lawsuit. This one involving election questions, fraud, double votes, bizarre algorithms, changing the outcome of elections, many other allegations inside this lawsuit brought against Letitia James for her role as the Attorney General of the state of New York and doing a terrible job at it. Sued here by this organization called the NY Citizens Audit Civic Fund and Marley Hornick, who is leading the cause. And they just had a press briefing on this earlier this week and communicated exactly what was going on. And this clip came over from Lindell TV from this journalist who had this great interview with her, a little bit of a soundbite after the press briefing, Kara Castronova explaining what this lawsuit is all about. We're going to take a look at it because we have an election coming up in New York pretty soon. And there are pretty serious allegations about election problems and a cover-up of the people who are investigating those problems, trying to sideline them, take them out, defame them, smear them as conspiracy theorists and all the things when they're trying to get to the bottom of massive systemic problems in the New York electoral system. So here is this exchange, courtesy of our friends at Lindell TV. It's Marley Hornick explaining what's going on.
Hey everybody, Kara Castronova with Lindell TV here with Marley Hornick, and we are talking about her big lawsuit that she's announcing against the Board of Elections in New York State and Letitia James for election fraud. Could you tell me more about it?
We're suing them for a conspiracy against civil rights. These pious civil rights advocates have suppressed the speech of New Yorkers. They do not want elections audited. They do not want to answer to the people regarding representation in Congress or anywhere else in New York or the federal government. And they have tried to attack and defame and crush citizens who had hard evidence of illegal election misconduct in Letitia James's own election. So we are suing them for damages, and we are suing to get a comprehensive, external, bonded, certified audit of the entire election process in New York from registration through certification. Because if we don't have legitimate representative government, we don't have a country. So we have to fight this all the way down to the mat with these people. They don't want us to have that.
Thank you so much. Where could people follow the lawsuit?
At on X at Real America Vote and at Marley Hornick. And also realamerica.vote is our website.
Thank you so much.
All right, so that was from Kara Castronova. That was only in the left ear. So if you had a right earbud in, you may not have heard that, but that was a nice overview of what this lawsuit is. And we appreciate Lindell TV actually having a conversation with this woman, because nobody in the mainstream media would ever have a conversation with her because they don't want to cover these stories. They just want to bury everything and leave our side of the aisle out of the legal battle, whereas they just bring on Mark Elias and Norm Eisen and all of the litigators on the left. They get promoted and lifted up and called heroes for fighting fascism and all that. But if you have somebody on the right suing a corrupt government official, nobody on the left wants to talk about it. So we appreciate Mike Lindell and Kara Castronova making the time to go to the press conference and have a nice conversation with this woman who is leading the charge against obvious corruption in New York. So here's the post on this. And the lawsuit was actually filed, I think, earlier, but they just are announcing it and doing the press briefing and all of that here. So it was October 13th, but they say it is now against the New York State Attorney General, Tish, ongoing violations of our civil rights. And we have many rights to petition our government, speak about our government, and more. And the lawsuit is making its way through the courts right now. You can see we've got orders that are coming out. Attorneys are coming onto this, and it is currently out of the Northern District of New York. Let's take a look at the claims that are inside. Here we have New York Citizens Audit Civic Fund suing Letitia and everybody else in New York who's a part of the elections. And they give us some background on this. They explain, in America, we have a right to legitimate government representation and the right to petition our government for a redress of grievances. And that's obvious. We have a right to a Republican form of government, and we're now suing to address Tish's violations of our legitimate rights under our government. These violations go to the core of our unique government agreement. We're supposed to have elections. And according to Madison, he said to the people of New York, the first question is whether the general form is going to be Republican. Okay, are our votes going to actually matter and count? Now, here's who's suing. These are members of an all-volunteer organization called New York Citizens Audit Civic Fund. They are specialists in auditing data, law, and cybersecurity. And they say that Tish retaliated against them because they're reporting on failures. They are conspiring to suppress their rights to seek a redress for the inaccuracies that are being exposed in the elections. Now, they assert that Tish, in collusion, conspired to and did use the power of state authority to defame these reports and to call it misinformation, despite admitting to never having even looked at them. They didn't review them. They tried to suppress their reports, violating their constitutional rights, using their office to suppress this info. And it's continued. In fact, there have been publicized criminal investigations into us that Tish is leading under the Ku Klux Klan Act, saying we have constitutionally protected activities that we can engage in, and she's investigating us under the KKK Act, saying that we're investigating the elections because we're racist from Tish. That makes sense. See, of course, you're racist again. I know. Too male, too pale, and too stale. Remember? All of this was done in order to avoid answering for the serious evidence of election misconduct and criminality that the New York individuals that we have documented and was continuing to research on behalf of the citizens of New York. And we got the Mamdani election coming up soon. Now, among the numerous well-documented findings from the auditors that were dismissed or ignored or retaliated against, Tish saw these reports and then just started attacking this organization. Here's some major problems. The presence of the New York NYS voter. All right, so like this is a system. The presence in NYS voter, think about like a computer program, of multiple steganographically masked, means there's materials in there that are masked, that are hidden in plain sight. There are algorithmic programs clandestinely controlling the assignment and structure of the ID numbers in the system, manipulating all the data for the purpose of injecting data. This is a level 4 severe total loss cyber incident of the system by actors unknown in violation of national critical infrastructure information security controls that are defined under the law, under U.S. code. We did research. Our research was peer-reviewed by cyber intelligence experts and published in the May 2023 Journal of Information Warfare, written by a volunteer. The article is entitled The Caesar Cipher and the Stacking of the Deck in the New York Voter Rolls. According to the New York research, the algorithms appeared in the voter system on June 15th, 2007. Rigging the whole thing since 2007. Now, the assignment by the New York State Board of Elections, apparently they also assigned 2.4 million unique state voter ID numbers to 1.7 million, 1.1 million. Okay, so 2.4 unique numbers assigned to 1.1 million people. What? You get two numbers? Despite black letter law forbidding the assignment of more than one unique state ID per voter, which single unique ID number is supposed to follow the voter for life. You don't get multiple numbers. The audits show that the excess 1.17 million ID numbers that were issued by the Board of Electors enabled fraudulent votes. We documented forged registrations and fraudulent votes associated with many of those extra numbers that are just double assigned. Large discrepancies also between the number of votes certified by the Board of Elections as having been counted and the number of voters who actually voted in the elections in 2020, 2022, and 2024 as evidenced by the records. They certified excess votes totaling 272,000 in 2020. Excess votes in the most rigged election of our lifetimes because of COVID and because of killing grandma. So everything had to change. And Joe Biden got 81 million votes or something. So in 2020, an excess vote of 272,000 votes. And then those numbers went down. The midterms, they were lower, 35,000 in 2022. And then in 2024, it goes back up, another presidential election. So a total of 436,000 votes were counted with no associated voter history record in the system. Almost 500,000 votes. Just kind of made up, shoved in there. 254,000 votes were cast by New York City residents in 2020. Now, as documented, and they're missing from the official voting records, this is disenfranchisement of 250,000 NYC voters. So they have some evidence, it sounds like, that 250,000 people voted, but they didn't count. The missing votes had been recorded in the voting history records and the data, but they did not appear in the voting history records of the same exact voters according to a copy of the data. Okay, so like the lists are not matching up. Sounds like the votes are coming in, but they're not making their way maybe to the final tally. The illegal overwriting of election records from the November 3rd, 2020 election is in violation of U.S. code. It requires the preservation of all records for 22 months. And the overwriting, again, they just overwrote it. Oops. Just like they corrupted the pipe bomb cell phone data. Oops. We just overwrote it all. He's the IT professional named Michael Chin, who was in response to our FOIA request, essentially. Nope, don't have it. Overwrote all the bad data. Sorry, it's missing. Can't report anything. Large-scale changes to the vote following the certification of the 2020 election included the addition of over 223,000 illegal double votes added to the voting history records of the voters who had previously voted only once. These double votes were added sometime between December 19, 2022 and July 3rd, 2023, according to carefully examined copies of the data that was obtained on those dates. We allege, these auditors, that these votes were an attempt to clean up the unreconcilable 2020 vote of 272,000 more votes than voter history records. So they went back and rigged it. Regardless, if the vote was accurate when it was certified, why'd they change it? If it wasn't accurate, then why was it certified? Clearly, the formerly certified tally was corrupted with an enormous number of illegal double votes while Tish was in control of it. Numerous victims also of campaign finance law violations via smurfing, which is the idea that you have a bunch of other bots or entities donating a ton of small amounts through fake names to one congressional candidate, where they'll $5, $1, $2, $7, $8, and just keeps going and going to the tune of thousands. They're all using information of prior voters, so it's hard to really track and trace it. And all of the individual donations are under any reporting requirements because they're small, tiny amounts. So you just do that with automated system to the tunes of thousands of transactions, and we've covered this a lot here, resulting in millions of dollars worth of fraudulent transactions. We documented it, they say. This work was underway when Tish opened a retaliatory pretextual criminal investigation against us. They start poking at Tish. She starts to investigate them. Now, our smurfing canvas, which was tracking all this money, everything we did, all of our documents were requested by Letitia during her investigation, and they're currently in her possession, so she can see our evidence. And the discoveries have since been reported to federal investigators as well. Now, literally, millions, they write, of material errors and omissions in the registration records, which should have precluded those registrants from registering and voting, should have happened, but it didn't. The lists are so bad. Everybody's just voting. There's no accountability. 1 in 4 registrations in New York voter systems lacks data that's required to properly assess their eligibility under state law, a quarter. This included 2.7 million records with plainly false dates at the time of registration, at the time the 2024 election was certified, due to the voter not even being born yet, or the date not having happened yet, or registration coinciding with birth, the voter being over the age of 114 years old, and registration occurring on January 1, Christmas, Thanksgiving, and the like. Okay, so they're all registering on holidays. Votes counted from the registrations with material errors and omissions contributed 10% of the certified votes. It's just all fake. And in what amounted to a Wild West process supposed to uphold the revolutionary and founding principles of our government by consent. How can you consent to your governance if the elections are fake? 10% of the votes are bad? That swings the whole election. Notably, a number of our contentions were and remain undisputed. Okay, Tish is not even fighting back. She's just, on the facts, just attacking them through her investigations, which means they're conceding them. This all the while, Tish continues to publicly and conversely defame our organization as the purveyor of disinformation. Bunch of exhibits came in. They say our organization, the auditors, we issued a number of documents. We have reports, studies, petitions, resolutions, all of it supporting our contentions. And she knows all of it. We've given it to her. It's public. Here you go. Fix it. Now, then Letitia came back. She defamed, she attacked, she silenced, she sought to criminally prosecute us for Ku Klux Klan violations. 2 male, and this one 2 female, and 2 pale, 2 white. These included the following. These are the documents, okay? Here, all of this is going over to Tish. All these exhibits have been submitted, lots of them. We've got a Caesar Cipher article, a petition, 5,000 New Yorkers, a resolution for an audit passed by 92 town boards, studies, general election reconciliations, scorecards, affidavits, summaries on explanations of the changes, Smurf canvas report. We've got our response to their demands about false claims. We explain the false claims. We explain the list maintenance problems. We have rebutted. We've got impersonator foils. And all these materials are here. All here. Read them. They're as part of their complaint. We've given them to Tish. She knows that they're accurate and that they're legitimate inquiries. Look at all this. Letters from Tish, all a part of the complaint. All as these are exhibits. Been working on it a long time. And newspaper headlines showing that Tish is attacking us back. So all of it has been incorporated. And here are more. We also have evidence from another election from a U.S. senator for New York, all tainted by vote manipulation. New York City bar report, Richmond grand jury report, documenting fraudulent votes, pleading for statewide election reform, sworn testimony from a former Venezuelan government official who programmed the national voting equipment using hidden data, also entered into the Colorado state court. The result of the actions from Tish targeting us has been devastating. We were decimated. Research activity was halted. Hundreds of individual members terrified, intimidated into silence because Tish is breathing down their backs. As a consequence, we haven't been able to repair the broken voting system in New York. And so what we're trying to do with this lawsuit is remove the cloud of the criminal investigation. These people are under attack by the New York State Attorney General for investigating election fraud, and she's abusing her office while being prosecuted for her own mortgage fraud, where she's screaming that she's under baseless attack from a dictator, Trump. These people are identifying fraud with gobs of evidence, and she's trying to silence them with criminal prosecutions. It's egregious, and we need to support Marley Hornick, the executive director. They're trying to restore free speech, and Tish is attacking them. So we know who the plaintiffs are. We know who the defendant is, Letitia James, the AG of New York. And we got some more background here. Now, in October 2021, after the most rigged election of our lifetime, volunteers, including experienced professional data analysts, began auditing statewide voter registration. There are federal rules. We've had a bunch of findings, and we found significant anomalies in the 2020 election. They were discovered, and they were reported over to her. We submitted a petition and said we wanted a meaningful response. Here are some of the anomalies. that we saw in 2020. First of all, 8.6 million votes that were certified, that did not match the number of voters who voted in the voter rolls. Only 8.41 million actually voted. It also didn't match the number of votes in the New York State precincts, which was 8.6 million. So we have a discrepancy of 272,000 votes that have just not been accounted for. So these violations, when examined by the county, resulted in many races being certified where the discrepancies exceeded the margin of victory. Perfect, stolen. Including the races of 89 New York State legislators and 10 U.S. congressional representatives. Dang. It's not just the presidency. 10 House seats? New York State Board of Election voter rolls contained at least 61,000 unique registrations that were not present in one or more county rolls. There were 1,282 registrations in county voter rolls, but missing from the state voter rolls. 37,000 problems here, 701,000 excess problems. And the voter rolls contained at least 1.48 million purged voters with no purge date, which at least 31,000 actually voted. So we had 31,000 people who voted who should have been purged or were not purged. No response was ever received. We sent all that to Tish in flagrant disregard of our rights. Further analysis was pursued and more people began participating. They say, well, we're finding everybody volumes of facially invalid data in their own systems, not reconciled. A study of algorithms discovered within the database structure was completed, and it was scientifically peer reviewed, and it was published in a cyber espionage journal. The same findings were also reported to the NY Special Investigations Unit on November 8th. The Board of Elections proceeded to certify the election, for AG, for 27 members of Congress, 1 senator, and everybody else. They used a system that had been reported to them as hopelessly and criminally marred by millions of material errors and omissions in their records. We reported it to them and to the FBI as breached, but still, they didn't care. Tishy and the Board of Elections knowingly and defiantly ignored these egregious violations in order to certify the false election. They used an obviously broken and penetrated system, clearly incapable of generating legally valid election results. And they certified the election. Then during the summer of 2022, our volunteers again went to the counties and presented information to 92 town boards across the state of New York. And we saw major problems in the midterms as well. 5.1 million invalid or illegal registration violations. 5.1 million. Those numbers are massive. 745,000 illegal votes counted in 2022. Almost 1 million votes. 35,000 more votes counted than voters in 2022. Another 750,000 voting in error. Absolutely insane. So there were resolutions in response to this. We're trying to gain statewide support for an audit. We got our letter signed by this person, Director Stavitsky, saying, you guys are disinformation activists. You're bad actors. You're trying to undermine the work of our election clerks. Now, this was not based on any actual assessment of anything. They wrote, we know these claims are unequivocally false and remind you that you're part of protecting our democracy. You can't promote a false narrative predicated on fictional analysis, just shredding them. Now, the letter was totally disingenuous. First, we clearly communicated that we had audited these records, the list that you are the custodian of, to the board, and you should have no trouble accessing any records. Go do your own due diligence. If you think we're making it up, go look at your records and run the numbers. Second, had we shared this list with the media, it would have been considered a violation of the agreement, and we didn't do that. Now, as previously stated, the Board of Elections never communicated with us despite having specifically requested a response. And instead, they smeared, while on the other hand, they smeared us in front of our own representatives. This was an attack on us. All we're trying to do is fix our elections. And what they wrote against us was simply false. We have been providing them information. They have been stonewalling us, and they have been retaliating against us. We have a constitutional right to petition our government and not be attacked for that. citing a bunch of case law supporting that. Now, we were also ignored, and so we began a physical canvass prevalence study about the duplicate records, and this was coordinated with research, and what we actually found was worse than things that how they initially appeared. We went and canvassed the home of an individual with 27 unique voter registration records assigned to him. So canvass meaning they're going and knocking on doors. Went to one dude's house, 27 unique voter registrations at one address. And another who had 11 records, all attributed to him in a 48-hour period. All smurfing votes. Neither individual had ever lived at the address. One of the addresses was a Western Union office. The other was a private home continuously occupied by somebody else for over a decade. In another example, we went to the home of a woman with 2 unique voter registration records that appeared to be maiden name, married name error. When presented with this, she identified herself with the one, but the other record had voted. Oh no. Voted more than a decade after her marriage. 13 of her votes were missing, according to their records. Now, we never accused anybody of voter fraud, but we have a problem with the system. Exactly how the system has gotten this way and been taken advantage of, we don't know. We have consistently said that our audits are just documenting what's happening. We're not accusing the voters of committing fraud. We've submitted over 800 requests for information, and we got the documents on a lot of cases. But in some cases, the requests were denied. Why? It's because they're trying to hide evidence. They're just demanding that we stop investigating. They want the public to blindly accept their absolute integrity and grant absolute authority to run the elections. But we went through, we also looked at smurfing. We visited the home of a woman who had reportedly donated over $263,000. And dang, this woman was going wild. 18,360 individual donations totaling $263,000 recorded by the FEC over 36 months. We went to her house. We knocked on her door. Hey, did you know you made almost 19,000 donations to candidates totaling over $250,000? She was shocked and denied having made an average of 17 $14 donations per day for 3 years. Did you make 3 donations of $45 a day every day? In another example, we visited the home of another woman who had reportedly donated $211,000, 15,000 individual donations over 36 months. She also denied doing so. In another case, another guy, wow, 1.8 million, over 8,200 donations over 36 months. An average of 8 donations at $200 for 3 years under this one dude's name. Where is our government? A total of 25 such cases were reported to federal law enforcement. What are they doing? Who are these people who are creating these automated accounts, obviously? Now, on August 13th, the New York auditors, they completed a comprehensive report. We submitted this to everybody, and we found 5 million invalid registrations, 750,000 votes illegally cast, and more. Now, we sent it to an official, and they acknowledged they got it. Here's a copy of the letter that we sent. Then, right after we sent them the letter, the Board of Elections, they issued a press release. They said, "Be careful, New Yorkers. Election imposters are visiting homes, and they're asking you questions about why you donated $1.8 million with $200 donations 8 times a day." They're trying to provide you with misinformation and intimidate you, saying don't answer the door so that they can't ask questions about our fraud. We're extremely alarmed by these actions. They're impersonating government officials to try to intimidate voters based on inaccurate and misleading information. We strongly encourage you to cease those canvasses, calling them criminals. Then on September 6th, during a monthly meeting, they came out and smeared them again. This defendant said, "I would also like to say, I believe we're on the offensive now. We're going into a presidential election, and we cannot let these auditors get away with this." So they dug their heels in. They went on a warpath against credible citizens who were just trying to get to the bottom of this. Then later in September, we learned there was a formal cease and desist order to stop us knocking on doors. Our volunteers learned about this by reading it on the front page of the newspaper. Those were obviously printed before we even got notice. Okay, so they sent it to the media, then they sent it to them. The order said, Letitia's office saying that voters are committing crimes, essentially, by knocking on doors. You're instructed to cease and desist voter deception and intimidation efforts. All they're doing is asking questions about your rigged elections. Voter deception has no place in New York. Voter intimidation has no place. Don't ask questions about our illegal funding. The cease and desist letter was covered by national news. In response, in September, they issued a press release. We did, from director Marley Hornick, shout out, says the allegations are puzzling. They have seen no evidence of the accusations. The whole thing is developed from a board of elections who's trying to create public hysteria about what we're doing. But all we're doing is asking questions. Despite knowing full well there was nothing to the allegations against us, she then wanted to prosecute us for conspiratorial violations of the KKK Act, leveraging state media to come and attack us. Now, this is aligned with her public feud with Trump, all screaming about the integrity of the elections, as we saw during the elections. And they want the cover-up to continue throughout 2024. So then there were some letters back and forth, and they're making statements about how bad these people are, how they're intimidating and providing misinformation. They want to cull this from happening. You need to cull the spreaders of this misinformation. Yeah, out of the public conversation. In their November letter, they also were sending stuff to sheriffs and smearing us repeatedly. Now, perhaps ironically about this controversy, Letitia got their positions through election outcomes or by partisan appointment, have now tried to crush concerns about election validity. Because once you get on top, you then want to pull the ladder up so nobody can climb up there and knock you off. New York's the auditors repeatedly stated that the issue is not that election outcomes were fraudulent. The issue is that the certifications are resting illegally upon non-compliant records. There are millions of false or deficient entries that they're using in their elections. And so they sought nothing. We just wanted them to do their duties, but they couldn't even do that. The letter goes on saying that we're committing outright false statements. They're making name calling, ad hominem attacks. They're constantly attacking us and even saying that we're committing crimes. The criminal investigation continued for 11 months just because these people are knocking on doors. Letitia attacked them with subpoenas and deficiency letters trying to wreck this organization. They fully complied with the extensive document requests and responded in what looked like an attack calling us racists. Despite all this, we say that the investigation continued until we were totally humiliated, financially exhausted, we were defamed statewide, and the plaintiff, personally, Marley, had been attacked in the media for months and years. Now, this is a very powerful official. Over 1,000 volunteers left our organization. Look at that number, out of fear. The statewide media campaign accused us of being KKK people, suppressed our rights to participate, calling us intimidators, people intimidating New York voters, and then included criminal allegations against us. The media went hog wild, and this was a conspiracy to attack us by alleging that we're criminals. And the effect of this was to deny citizens who were carrying factual information about rigged elections to the authorities to fix it. And this is a shameful downfall in New York, they say. And so we seek relief. We seek relief under the Due Process Clause, and here are our legal claims. First of all, our First Amendment speech has been violated. We have been suppressed. We cannot talk about these things because we're being attacked with cease and desist letters, silencing us in the minds of the public. They're actively targeting us, chilling our speech, and preventing us from communicating. We also have the right to petition for a redress of grievances. They're not allowing us to do that. Violating U.S. code, saying you're trying to intimidate us. You're trying to intimidate our volunteers. And voter intimidation is one of the claims. Defamation for smearing us as being racist and members of, the Ku Klux Klan, essentially. We've got due process rights. You can't attack us without giving us proper notice, and you're smearing us in the media before we even have notice of the cease and desist. And so the counts continue. We have a right to a functional government, and we can petition our government for a redress of grievances without being attacked by the New York State Attorney General. We demand a trial by jury, and we ask that you declare, court, that Letitia's actions violated our First Amendment right to free speech in a deliberate conspiracy against our rights. They violated our right to petition for a redress of grievances. What they did was actually voter intimidation and voter suppression, which violated our right to vote. They also committed defamation against us, violated our due process rights, violated our Fifth Amendment due process rights. They are members and officers and subject to official duties. And we have a right to a legitimate government. Instead, they're withholding incriminating evidence, rejecting our lawful requests, and not at all creating or promoting free and fair elections. There are also, we want a declaration, algorithms in the voter system that appeared in the Journal of Information Warfare, and that algorithm represents a severe and total loss of control of the system. There are also inexplicable changes to voter rolls, combined with numerous other investigations and reports that clearly document uncontrolled edits and deletions, and that these edits and deletions violate the law, and they're not preventing or remediating anything. Also saying they illegally overwrote key data. They deleted election records in violation of the law, saying you got to preserve that stuff for 22 months. They've adopted all these practices, and they continue to certify elections in spite of these problems. We also see there are duplicate numbers. It's supposed to be one voter, one ID. Instead, there's 1.5 million voters who don't have that pattern. The accuracy is also required under federal law. But despite this, New York State voter is 25% error. These errors are material. And 10% of the votes in 24 came from materially deficient records. We also want you to say that claims at issue here are not misinformation, okay? This is credible analysis. It's been peer-reviewed and published. And so they can't smear us accordingly. We also want you to stop the use of this rigged system, NYS voter, in any election in which federal officers are on the ballot until that algorithm is removed and other clandestine algorithms are also removed. Stop them from overwriting and deleting any other record. Stop them from certifying election results without reconciling the number of votes so it's accurate. Stop them from administering elections and certifying results until they submit for an external audit so we can verify identity and citizenship and all of the other things that we need to identify. Order them to establish a plan for security, mandate that they send retraction letters to all of the agencies who initially disparaged our work, and mandate that they be required to send copies of these letters to the media as well. We also want compensatory damages for our legal expenses and for the lost revenue after we've been publicly defamed, derided, and targeted criminally. We want attorney's fees and any other relief signed by John L. O'Kelly, attorney out of New York, on behalf of the auditors of New York. And that is a lot of details on some serious problems throughout the entire state. And of course, Letitia, who already has a pattern and practice of attacking her political opponents, did the same thing to New York Citizens Audit Civic Fund and Marley Hornick. And of course, you can go follow Marley Hornick over on her X account. Looks just like this. And we appreciate the work that she is doing because, man, she's under attack and she doesn't have the same, resources and platform that a guy like Trump has. And so we want to support the people who are fighting back against the obvious corruption in our cities. And so we just reposted that She had a press briefing earlier this week, so give her a follow if you're following our timeline. Marley Hornick, shout out. Thanks for leading the charge in New York and holding these officials accountable. We'll keep our eye on this one, my friends. Elections coming up. We want them to be fair and free. All right, now let's talk about this SNAP situation and see what's going on over here, because we've got a bunch of states declaring a state of emergency. And here is the latest. States now declaring a state of emergency. A bunch of them now coming out. You can see color-coded. As of Thursday, we had 14 states saying that they're going to declare their own emergencies and fund the food stamps for the people who need them, allegedly. And it has been one after another as the Democrats refuse to reopen the government. But Kathy Hochul came out and she said, we can afford it. And it's interesting, if all these states can just afford it themselves, then why are we paying for it at the federal level? But okay, Kathy Hochul came out. They say 42 million people across the U.S. are going to lose safety nutrition tonight. New York, Delaware, Rhode Island, Virginia, Maryland, all declared a state of emergency, moving to allocate millions to offset the funds. Food banks nationwide bracing for a crushing demand. 65 million in new state funds in New York. And here's just a quick roundup of some of them. You can see here's from Hochul over on her website. Big statement. She went down to the food shop and doesn't even have gloves on, touching all that. Gross. Don't eat it. So she's out there, and Hochul declared a state of emergency. Apparently 3 million New Yorkers need food from our government, which is a gigantic number. So they're working on that, and apparently they can afford it. Here's one from Delaware. Matt Meyer. Funds are going to be secured. And if the states are going to handle it, then apparently it's not that big of an emergency, right? So it won't be 42 million people who are going to starve to death. Governor Lamont, 3 million in emergency funding in Connecticut. So they're going to eat over there in Connecticut. No big deal. Governor Moore, state of emergency, 10 million towards food assistance. Oh, good. So they can eat too. So everybody's going to be, eating food in many of these states. Delaware, also Virginia came out. Governor Glenn Youngkin declared a state of emergency. They're going to use a bunch of money to supplement SNAP benefits, because in America, we have so many people who need government assistance just to eat because our system is so broken. So all this is happening. And here is a little bit of a report from who is getting these funds. And here was this one from Lance Gooden. He posted this over from Fox News.
City says each migrant will get approximately $12.52 per day to purchase food and baby supplies. But that's about 40% more than what the average low-income American got per day in government food stamps or SNAP benefits in 2022 at $7.59 per person.
Yeah, that's interesting. So this is an old clip from January 8th, right? And remember, I wonder where all that money went. Oh, that we could have maybe given to American citizens who actually needed it. Oh, yeah. It went to illegal aliens. Look at that. Look at those numbers. Yeah. So they get higher priority than Americans. They get more money too. And we remember in New York that they were stuffing them in the Roosevelt Hotel. And we saw the two ladies in the video with their babies who are walking around New York getting asked questions about room service in their hotels. And they said, oh yeah, we have maids come and clean every day for us. Every day. Don't even have to clean. Take out the trash, make the bed, straighten things up in the hotel. Nice life. So you can see they're all responding, and that's great. I mean, if all of their, if their citizens need support, then they can support their citizens. I don't want anybody to starve to death in America. That's ridiculous. We've got a lot of resources that we're funneling out to the rest of the planet that should be for our people. We don't want them starving. We also don't want our infrastructure hollowed out. And our government can cover up for the hollowing out of our country and the deflation, the inflation of our dollar, the lower value that we get for our labors by just giving people handouts. Just shut up. Don't worry about your inflated dollar. Yes, you can't buy a house. Yes, college is too expensive. Yes, healthcare is unavailable. Yes, blah, blah, blah. But here, have some food stamps and just kind of keep you at the base layer of sustenance so you stop complaining about everything. But there are all these clips. There's a whole account out there called EBT of TikTok. And here's one, 9mm SMG over on X, said, I've seen a lot of these. They're all very repetitive, okay, all complaining. We're going to steal. We're going to go take our food. You deserve to feed us. And they should just, he says, this one is above them all. The level of entitlement is amazing. They should just shut down the program forever. Here is what this lady had to say. I have not listened to this yet, so let's check it out.
Please stop donating meal kits to food pantries. First of all, this is not disability accessible. People have food allergies. People are gluten intolerant. People are lactose intolerant. In fact, a lot of non-white people are lactose intolerant. And this also takes away choice and autonomy to poor people. You're saying, here, I meal planned for you, instead of letting them choose what they should do with the food. And I'm not saying this to be callous, but all of these recipes are for white people. Okay? And people who are not white want to be able to cook the foods that they're familiar with, that their children will eat, that make them feel
get some money and earn it,
or comfortable, or, pull at their heartstrings. They should be allowed to uphold their cultural foods and eat their cultural diet. And if a portion of their food benefit is your white-centric, lactose-laden meal plan, it's doing more harm than good.
I don't know. She looks pretty white to me, but I don't really know. It's, hard to make a judgment on that. But I don't know. She seems pretty upset about being lactose intolerant. So if you give her a glass of chocolate milk, it's probably a bad time over there. So a lot of that out there. I think there's the phrase, beggars can't be choosers kind of a thing, right? And I mean, if you gave everybody like potatoes and beans, like the staple, so that people are literally not starving to death. Like, we don't want people to starve to death, right? But we also don't want people to sell their EBTs and go get their hair done and go to concerts and exchange all. And there's massive fraud in these organizations, as we're seeing. And apparently some people are going to get the poops if they eat white people food. So not going to be good. So everyone's going to die, just like back during COVID. You're going to kill grandma instantly unless you get 15 jabs in your neck. You're going to kill ethnic people who are going to have diarrhea eating your food. Oh, gosh. So here, SNAP program, as we know, is ripe with fraud, disparity, and health issues for participants. Yeah, we've seen some of the biggest people in America, I mean physically in terms of pounds, complaining about they're going to starve to death. We played a clip earlier this week of some lady, I don't know how we're going to put food on the table for my kids. We're like, well, you got nothing to worry about. You got a storage and a reserve that's going to last you for at least 3 months. So the November 1 deadline looms. It's here. But issues through the program have spurred a tranche of viral videos, all spreading over the place, just like what we talked about. A Pew Research study published in 23 found that in fiscal year 21, 41 million people, 12% of the population, on these food stamps. About 36% of the SNAP households live below the poverty line, with an average monthly benefit of $231 per person or $427 per household. Now, racially, 39% are white, 26% are black, 17% Hispanic. But the participation rates were higher among black and Hispanic individuals compared to white individuals. So it seems like it's maybe more white families, but black and Hispanic individuals. These figures highlight both the economic hardship addressed by SNAP and the disproportionate role in supporting communities of color. In fiscal year 2023, the agriculture estimated that 11% of SNAP benefits, including $10.5 billion, were paid out improperly, with fraud contributing to a portion of those losses, even though through recipient and retailer violations. Every dollar of SNAP benefits lost to fraud generates an additional $3.72 in costs for agencies, from identity fraud, account takeovers, eligibility misrepresentation, EBT card trafficking. Right? It's not even like tied to you or your family. Just like swap them. In the first quarter of 24 alone, 177,000 fraud incidents were reported, with New York alone experiencing 16,000 cases. It's called EBT card skimming and cloning. Despite a 350% increase in federal spending to stop this, SNAP overpayment errors also surged by over 10% in 2023. It's funded entirely by the Department of Agriculture. They issue EBT cards, they process applications, and more. Several states got waivers to restrict the use of benefits for purchasing sugary drinks and candy. Nebraska became the first to ban soda and energy drinks, followed by approval for Iowa, Indiana, and others that prohibit candy and other non-nutritious items. Yeah, and there's a bunch of garbage that you can buy on this stuff. As of August, a total of 12 states, including Arkansas, Idaho, Florida, Texas, West Virginia, have implemented or are set to implement other restrictions to promote healthier food choices, so we don't have chronic diseases like diabetes. CDC and Census Bureau say that the SNAP recipients continue to face disproportionately high rates of obesity and diabetes. Yeah, particularly in low-income areas where participation exceeds 20% of households. For instance, in Staten Island's highest SNAP zip codes, obesity reached 35 to 40%. Diabetes, 14 to 18%, compared to other averages, which are much lower, illustrating how food insecurity amplifies these chronic conditions. Or maybe it's just free food. The 2025 State of Obesity Report highlights that while overall adult obesity dipped slightly to 41%, almost half of our country is obese. Low-income groups relying on SNAP benefits with rates over 35% bear the brunt. And then we also got to pay for that too, because they're on the healthcare programs that are subsidized by the taxpayer. So we feed them, just shove free, disgusting food in their gullets. Then they get fat and need healthcare, and then we got to pay for that too. Additionally, a 2023 analysis of low-income adults with type 2 diabetes shows 63.4% obesity prevalence, 55% poor glycemic control. During the food stamps era, users reported enduring embarrassment at grocery checkouts where clerks handled and sorted coupons. Switching to EBT cards is now just a simple swipe. It's free government money. Studies show this loss of stigma played a major role in the program's expansion. Yeah, because you don't want to be seen with it. But now it's just a card. Just swipe it and you get whatever you need. So fraud is everywhere and they're very unhappy about it. And of course, you have people like this saying, we don't want your gluten food. We're going to poop everywhere if you make us have those. So if they don't want to eat the white people food, okay, which I don't even know what that is. I mean, like beans and potatoes and noodles. It's like the college diet, okay? We all had to go through that. The White House is saying, open the government. Here are a bunch of people explaining that the Democrats are responsible for this. They can get a clean CR back open. Then they can go get their ethnic food as long as they want and pack on another 50 pounds.
The biggest way to ensure the safety, security, and reliability of our national air traffic control system is to pass a...
All right, so audio on that one with music, which we can avoid. Here is more from J.D. Vance, who was out there in front of the White House with a bunch of other people, and here is what he had to say.
Here is our very simple proposal to the Democrats. Let's sit down and come to a compromise and work it out. And you know what the Democrats' response to that is? Give us everything we want, or we're going to shut down the government and keep it shut down. That is not reasonable behavior. That's not how you do compromise in this town. That is the way that the Democrats have operated. They are trying to take a hostage, and we can't reward that behavior. If we do that, if we say, yes, of course, we'll give you everything that you want if you reopen the government, you know what's going to happen? In 3 months, they're going to come back to the administration and they're again going to say, we're going to shut down the aviation industry. We're going to deny people SNAP benefits unless you give us exactly what you want. That's how a child behaves. That is not how a responsible governing party behaves in the United States of America. And let me make one final point, and then we'll cut out of this press conference. Look, I've been a little bit unfair, and I want to correct this, because when I say the Democrats have shut down the government, it's actually the far left side of the Democratic Party, because to their great credit, 3 moderate Democrats joined 52 Senate Republicans to vote to reopen the government. We need 5 more reasonable Democrats to put the American people first and reopen the government. That's all that we're asking. Let's talk about health care policy. Let's make sure that we ensure that Americans' health insurance premiums don't go up. We want that, and we're willing to work with people for it, but they've got to reopen the government first. Sean came from a background not that dissimilar from mine. Sean O'Brien came from a background not that dissimilar from mine. There are moms and dads who are fighting right now because they're worried about not being able to pay the credit card bill and the mortgage bill. There are parents who have to look their kids in the eye and say, you know what, we're not going to do football this year. We're not going to do basketball this year because I can't pay for it because the federal government is shut down and I'm not getting a paycheck. Do we want those people who keep the aviation system running to not be able to feed their families, to not be able to pay for some of the things that make life worth living? The answer to that question is absolutely. We want them to be able to afford a good life. The only way for that to happen is to reopen the government. It'll be good for those who fly. It'll be good for those who work in the aviation industry. It'll be good for the whole country. Just do the common sense thing, Democrats. Reopen the government. We need 5 Senate Democrats to join us. I hope that they will. Thank you.
They won't because they're too focused on their illegal alien constituency. And this is a do or die situation for them. If they lose all this money and they lose that constituency because they're being deported, birthright citizenship is being revoked, we have new appropriations, and they don't get their $1 trillion slush fund for their health care and all the other benefits, and the states have to come out of pocket for that, the illegals will leave. They will not get the free benefits, and the sanctuary cities are going to be under direct threat. Those have become the little bastions of blue insanity, and so this is existential for them. But now they've also got this guy, a Teamster, who came out and said, reopen the government. We've had enough of this.
And we took a position. I represent 1.3 million working men and women in this country for the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. We took a position 3 weeks ago. Pass a clean CR, get to the table, negotiate a deal. Do not put working people in the middle of a problem they should not be in there. And we got to think about the families that are going to be affected. Think about when you have to tell your son or daughter they can't play sports because you're not getting paid. Think about when you can't pay your mortgage. Think about when you can't pay your tuition. Put the politics aside, get to the table, negotiate a deal, pass a clean CR right now, and then figure out the problems moving forward. And I want to thank the air traffic controllers. I want to thank the aviation administration for all their hard work and sacrifice they make. And look, security and safety of the airlines is paramount. Let's not compromise the safety and security. Pass a clean CR. Thank you.
All right, a lot of energy out there pushing on the Democrats to say, we have a solution. It's right here. Just need 5 of you people to come over, reopen the government. We're not going to negotiate on your love for illegal aliens. If they want free health care and free benefits and all the free food and all the things, they can go back to their countries and demand it from their leaders, not ours. So we'll keep our eye on this, but the clock is counting down and those benefits are going to be going bye-bye. But the states are handling it. So I don't think anybody's going to just starve to death immediately. And if the shutdown continues because the Democrats don't want to reopen the government, well, then we'll have to find alternatives and address this really big problem in our country where huge percentages of certain populations are on food stamps for what seems to be an indefinite period of time. And now they want not white food, or else they might poop their pants. All right, now, my friends, let's talk about Kamala. Got a lot of Kamala in this, but they're actually pretty good because she is on one. And so let's get into this one from Kamala. Kamala Harris is now out shredding Joe Biden. Something has happened between these two, and she's doing interviews where she's commenting on Joe Biden's phone call to her the moment she was about to get on the debate stage with President Trump. And this is a new tone from her. She was on this podcast, lacing into him. Here's what it sounded like.
I'm in the hotel room with Doug, with my husband, and the president calls. And I was told that he wanted to call me so that I'd be ready. And I was so sure it was to buck me up and go get him. And he did say that for the first beat. And then he went on to talk about a group of people in Pennsylvania who were saying bad things about me because they heard I was saying bad things about him. And when I hung up the phone, it was unbelievable. And I was angry and deeply disappointed. It was so unnecessary. There are only 2 people in the world other than me that has debated this guy, Hillary Clinton and him.
And he beat you
know
both.
What it's like. going into a debate with the stakes being that high and Trump hadn't agreed to another debate.
Why would he?
The stakes were so high. So that's an example of what I mean.
Oh, Joe blew it.
You took something
from... Joe blew it. Joe called her and rattled her off her game. And Joe said, there's a group out there talking bad about you, and they're doing that because you're talking bad about me. So maybe you should stop doing that. Now it's time for my nap and some ice cream. I got to go. Good luck tonight. And Kamala, she's so, unqualified for anything that requires high stakes or stress or pressure that she's like angry and shocked about this. I'm going to go out there and get on the stage with Trump. I wanted a little coach to rah-rah me up. Pathetic. This guy follows up.
From that, you took an underlying message about one's intentions from that, because I would. If someone called me in the lead up to debate prep and said something like that to me, I would assume that they don't want the best for me.
Oh. So her performance is now shattered or shaken by Joe.
My takeaway is his motivation was all about himself.
Oh,
that's what I would assume from that.
Yeah.
I would assume that.
Yeah, right. Obviously, right. Yeah. It wasn't about my performance at the debate.
Yeah, well, I think it was. That's why you're talking about this story. Although she did, I think, fairly well on the debate stage. I mean, better than I thought she was going to do on the debate stage. Obviously, it didn't matter. But she's, she went out there, read the script, and just stuck to the talking points. Pretty basic stuff. And it wasn't like a horrible performance, but also we were measuring her against Joe Biden. So it's, it's like compared to Joe Biden, Kamala was like amazing. She's like, wow, competent. She's like said a full sentence, incredible. So we were measuring her against a pretty low standard, but it wasn't good enough. And so now she's going to come out, and this is a big sea change. We don't, cover a lot of the Democrat intra-party warfare because there's usually not a lot of it. Usually they're pretty much in alignment. Whatever Nancy Pelosi says, they just all do it. Whatever Chuck Schumer says, they just all do it. And Kamala was a good steward of the Biden regime until now. She's having to make a clean break on this, and she's coming out not mincing words, blaming Joe Biden specifically. I was angry is what she says. So that's just one clip. Now, here was another one from an Australian reporter who had a follow-up on this. This was an interesting exchange because they actually cut this off. This Australian broadcaster had an exchange with her and then came back out in another video. These are all just reloading right now. And let me pull that one up. Let me make sure. Yeah, we've got another response from that journalist. Okay, while these are playing, I'm going to make sure I get that. Here is what this sounded like from Kamala.
A nearly impossible. Wasn't Joe Biden then, to put it on him, wasn't his refusal to recognize his own frailties the reason that you faced a nearly impossible task?
I ran against Donald Trump for president, and Donald Trump ran on a platform that was in large part, I believe, misrepresenting his intentions to the American people. I do believe that there are a fair number of people that voted for Donald Trump who believed him when he told them that his first priority on day one is going to be to bring down prices, and he didn't. And you combine
can't do it on the first day. He's working on it.
Intention with also what was at play in terms of massive amounts of mis and disinformation.
Now, forgive me,
and a truncated calendar in terms of the clock.
Yeah,
I want to interrupt you because that is a world-class pivot, but it is not the question that I asked you.
That's right, it's not.
Which is about Joe Biden's failure to recognize his own frailties and what that did to you. The question is about Joe Biden. Are you still reluctant to criticize the former president?
In what regard, please?
Well, just in terms of that question. So you went on.
What exactly would you like to ask? Be more specific, if you don't mind.
Was it Joe Biden's decision, his failure to recognize his own frailties in that position, that put you in the position that made it almost impossible to win that race?
He was not frail as president of the United States.
But he had frailties. We all saw the debate.
I do believe that Joe Biden had the capacity to be president of the United States, and I have never doubted that he had the capacity to be president of the United States. If you want to talk about whether he had the ability to endure what a race for president of the United States would require in that political environment in 2024, as I've said in the book, I had concerns.
I'm just wondering, is there a reason why you won't go to that prolonged frailty question? We saw the debate, we saw the difficulty he had marshalling his thoughts.
I have answered that question. I do not believe
I think it's just hard watching the debate to see how there could not be a problem long term with someone who can't marshal their thoughts. I'm not saying his acuity wasn't present.
I talked about that in the book.
Okay.
And I also mentioned the context in which that debate occurred. And you'll probably remember how I talked about that in terms of what his travel schedule had been, that what he had been enduring in terms of the timing of that debate. I talk about it extensively in the book. I'm not shying away from that. That's why I wrote it in the book, because I do know it's a question people had.
Yeah, so it doesn't make any sense. So she had concerns about his ability to campaign, but not concerns about his ability to be president. Makes no sense because she's not congruent. But she also admits back in this exchange that she was in a state of shock once she learned that she was going to lose. And that makes sense because she ran a deluded campaign. They elevated her like she was a saint and anointed her to the top of their ticket. And then reality hit hard.
I was in a state of shock.
Really? Did you think the day before that you were going to win the election?
I did.
Yeah. And so when did the proverbial penny drop?
When I got a call from my campaign manager that it looks like we need 200,000 more votes that we can't find. Meaning it's just the map, the numbers. And the thing I kept saying over and over again, I was in a state of shock. I was so inarticulate, but maybe very articulate. What I kept saying over and over again is, my God, my God, my God.
Really?
Over and over. I couldn't stop. I haven't felt that emotion, anything similar to the emotion I felt that day and for quite some time, other than the grief I felt when my mother died. I knew what was going to happen to our country.
What?
I knew the harm that was going to happen to people.
We're going to close the border?
And I knew it. I knew what was going to happen.
Right, so that's Kamala. So she mourned, and I believe that she probably did. She probably thought that she was going to be the president. Everybody around her was like, Ann Salzer says you're going to win Iowa. She's like, we're going to win Iowa? Yeah. So here's another one. I think she's dropping F-bombs in this one. She's doing all these interviews. She's probably going to run for office again. And she's doing this interview. I think she drops an F-bomb here, so warn your kids about Kamala's filthy mouth.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Whoa!
This guy wants to create a ballroom for his rich friends while completely turning a blind eye to the fact that babies are going to starve when the SNAP benefits end in just hours from now? Come on.
So, I know babies are going to drop dead everywhere, just like COVID too. Everybody's dropping dead because you couldn't get a jab in your neck.
What? I'm not going to be distracted by, does the guy have a big fucking hammer?
Whoa!
What about those babies?
Right. Well, maybe you shouldn't have, you're the border czar. Maybe you shouldn't have given all of those benefits to illegal aliens and then we could feed American babies, but they don't care about that. So she's dropping F-bombs. She's on one. And this was from Ian Sams earlier this week. And remember this dude, and we played a lot of these clips, but I don't think we played Ian Sams. And he now is in this clip explaining side by side of these liars about Joe Biden's actual competency. Okay. He met with him like a handful of times is what he says. And when we listen to this, he met with Joe on a Zoom meeting one time as a participant in the meeting, and he counted that while they were all lying to us. And now Kamala's pounding the table, effing. They've all got that memo. They all have potty mouths now because they really can't use their brains to communicate effectively. And Ian Sams was a good communicator. Unfortunately, he was a liar. And here is what this sounded like.
How often would you say that you interacted with the president in person?
I interacted with him pretty infrequently.
So weekly, monthly, what are we talking about?
Very infrequent. I think I met with the president a handful of times during my tenure in the White House.
I want to introduce Exhibit 2 as it's being passed around. It's a tweet from Alex Thompson at Axios summarizing, pulled a couple quotes of interview you did it on MSNBC, and one of the quotes says, "When I deal with him, he is sharp," him being President Biden, and he is asking tough questions. Do you recall this?
I got to say, that doesn't look anything like the president that I know. When I deal with him, he's sharp, he's asking tough questions. That's the President Biden that so many of us experience every single day.
So this statement, the basis for this statement was your interactions somewhere between 1 and 5 times.
Yes.
Okay. Do you think that's a bit misleading?
I think it was pretty direct and honest, and said that when I do deal with him, he's sharp, and he was asking incisive questions during my meetings with him.
But you dealt with him 5 times in 24 months. That's not exactly a large scope of knowledge on how he
every
interacts
single
with
day.
Staff. You don't think it's missing some context?
I don't.
Do you think that statement suggests that you deal with him more than you did?
I don't think so. I mean, I spoke about my own interactions with him. That's the President Biden that we experience every day.
But to the best of your recollection, 4 meetings, 2 were in person.
Twice.
2 that were, the 2 that I described to you that I, at the very onset in the Oval, one was a Zoom where he was at Camp David, and I was a participant in the meeting.
A Zoom.
The phone call. I think there was another meeting, or another engagement, but I can't remember off the top of my head what it was. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm just trying to get an understanding. So the immunity decision was virtual with him at Camp David. There was a phone call regarding Hunter Biden's testimony.
Yes.
An in-person meeting regarding Hunter Biden's testimony. And one other in-person meeting?
About Special Counsel Hur's testimony.
About Special Counsel. So 2 in-person meetings.
Sure, at least that, yes.
Okay.
At least 2. Okay, might be 3 though. Over 24 months. And just lied every day, just like what you see there. Lies by omission. No, this is the president that we know. The president that we see every day. Very, very lying. Very, very scandalous. And he knew what he was doing. We knew what he was doing. Now, of course, Comer is referring all of this, and Kamala should be a part of this inquiry, to Pam Bondi. Comer sent this one earlier this week, said, all right, hey, Pam, the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform has conducted an investigation into whether Joe Biden's cognitive decline was hidden from the American people by his inner circle of advisors, and whether critical decisions attributed to him were in fact authorized by him himself. The committee has found that Biden's aides coordinated a cover-up of the president's diminishing faculties. Additionally, the committee has found that these same aides utilized an ad hoc, inconsistent, and ineffective process to obtain Biden's assent to certain key decisions, not only the pardons and the executive orders, but maybe the judges too, which raises significant questions about whether Biden knew, let alone provided a decision about the use of an auto pen that bore his signature. Now, while his deterioration was evident to the American people, and consequently, robust systems should have been put in place to document the actual will, they didn't. They took no action to establish this record at all. Indeed, Biden and his unelected aides worked recklessly and concertedly to hide the president's condition from the public. And so therefore, barring documentation establishing a record of his decision-making, the committee deems Biden's executive actions that were signed using the auto pen void. And the committee determines that action by the DOJ is warranted to release and to address the legal consequences of that determination. Now, the committee has released a report, The Biden Auto Pen Presidency, Decline, Delusion, and Deception in the White House, which we read earlier this week, documenting its findings attached here too. This report details instances regarding Biden's physical and mental decline, the ramifications of that decline on executive decision-making, and steps taken by the Biden White House to conceal a president losing his capacity to govern. Notably, the committee did not investigate any specific executive actions taken by Biden about national security, but only including but not limited to covert and military actions. Those decisions would have been facilitated by the NSA, Secretary of State, Defense, CIA, and DNI, just to name a few. And Comer continues, he says, the committee requests that you investigate all executive actions taken during the Biden administration to ascertain, were they duly authorized by Joe? And we also request you investigate the actions of these key people, Specifically, these two, Anthony Bernal and Amy Tomasini, as well as the doctor, Kevin O'Connor, they all invoked and refused to testify, saying, here, we need you to undertake an investigation to determine if any action taken by these three individuals constitute criminal activity. We've got broad authority to do this, and now we are doing that, signed by your friend, James Comer. And we saw Kamala talk to the Australians, and here was more on this from Jon Stewart. He says, you actually think that Joe Biden was a competent person? Here's what Kamala said.
And I don't mean that in the personal sense of not ready. I meant it more in the sense of the policies that he wanted to implement or the way that they were implemented or the governance obstacles more than the competence conversation.
Yo, I'm not talking about competence. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm not talking about competence at all. No, I believe he was fully competent to serve.
Do you really?
Yeah, I do.
That surprises me, actually.
No, I do. There's a distinction to be made between running for president and being president.
What's the distinction?
Well, being a candidate for president of the United States is about being in a marathon at a sprinter's pace, having tomatoes thrown at you every step you take.
That sounds lovely.
And that's not the presidency?
It's more than a notion.
Get involved in public service, ladies and gentlemen.
And to be the seated president, the sitting president, while doing that, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah. I think it's a hard case to make for people that he didn't have the stamina to run, but he had the stamina to govern. Because I think most people view the presidency as a marathon run at a sprint with tomatoes being thrown at you in terms of governance. So I think that drawing that distinction. And again, I recognize the incredibly difficult place you are in with that, with personal relationships. And, I've been surprised at how much people talk about loyalty. And it's funny in the book, it creeps in every now and again because it'll be like, I love Joe. I'm loyal to Joe. He's the best. But, he gave that 11-minute speech and it wasn't until 10 minutes in that he said anything about me. Like, it's hard, I guess. You're still people. It's hard to get the personal feelings of.
Anyways, she thinks that Joe was, I guess, not competent to run, but was competent to serve, which is obviously insane. So Comer also said, we're looking into everybody. All of the pardons are null and void, and we're going to be asking Pam to take it from here and start her investigation so that we can bring charges. Here's Comer.
Many were granted pardons by the auto pen on the last day of the Biden presidency with no record that Joe Biden played any role whatsoever in the authorization of those pardons. So I think all those pardons from Dr. Fauci to the Biden family to Adam Schiff, the January 6th committee, the list goes on and on and on. I think every one of those pardons signed with the auto pen with no evidence that Joe Biden was involved in the decision making. I think every one of those can be declared null and void by the Department of Justice. And I think our evidence in the investigation will make that decision hold up in court.
And we want to see some internal divisions within this cabal of criminals. And if Kamala wants to talk about Joe and then Joe or Hunter wants to talk about the other individuals who are criminals, then we can start using their testimony against themselves and get justice finally after a full administration of political weaponization and criminal cover-up. Time for justice, pardons null and void, and even Kamala is cracking. She's breaking with Joe, now out there with her book, now on the podcast, talking a little smack against him. We'll see where it goes. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do. All right, my friends. Well, it has been a beautiful stream for the day, an early stream today. We'll call it a day after this. But if you're just joining us, quick recap on what we talked about. Kash Patel said that there was a terror attack. Let's see if there's any more news on this terror attack or stopped a potential terror attack. Thanks to swift action, a violent plot was stopped. Vigilance saved lives. And so it was over in Michigan, tied to international terrorism, waiting for the story to develop a little bit. And FBI said it prevented a terror attack. More details to come. And do we have any more details? No. We don't. Detroit Public Affairs confirmed that it was in Dearborn. All right, so no more details on that. But if you're just joining us, we did talk about that. We talked all about the Democrats abandoning Congress and the Americans. We went through some of the best highlights from Halloween over at the White House, including Trump's new candy on head. Absolute banger meme, because that's what Trump does. And it was a lot of fun going through that. Some good times at the White House. Hopefully your Halloween is amazing and you're doing something fun as well. Then we talked about Jack Smith and how he buckled, he crumbled when AT&T put up a little bit of a fight and said, what's your basis for demanding subpoenas and records from our senators who are on our plan? And Verizon didn't. Verizon came back out and then they responded and said, actually, we made some errors and we have no real review process and we don't really want to answer questions about the internal deliberations that occurred, but we did give information over to Jack Smith's team. We're sorry about it. We're not going to do it again. Marsha Blackburn says that's not good enough. We're going to investigate you, and we want to have answers on who approved this. And I would guess that there were a bunch of people who were voluntarily complicit in just using the fake excuse that, oh, a judge issued a subpoena and approved it, and so that's good enough. And they gave it all over to them, even though AT&T says there was no legal basis for it. Jack knew it, Garland knew it, and they all did it anyways. So hopefully they're investigated and prosecuted accordingly. Clips from Byron Donalds were out. Then we heard from this woman, Marley Hornick, who is suing Letitia James in a very interesting lawsuit. We read through most of the full thing here today, 52 pages. We hit the highlights and got to see all of the allegations of algorithmic fraud, massive batches of votes that shouldn't be counted, duplicates this and duplicates that. And Tish's really weaponized the tax back against this agency. This organization, they lost 1,000 volunteers and were smeared and even criminally investigated, all for asking questions about the election. Then we had the updates on the SNAP emergency situation. 14 states now declaring a state of emergency, which means I guess we're going to have less dead babies on November 2nd, which is good. And reaction from Congress, including demands that they pass a CR and reopen the government. The Democrats can make this all go away very quickly if they're concerned about it, but they're not. They're more concerned about healthcare for illegal aliens. Then Kamala hitting the wave, making the waves, hitting the podcasts, and talking garbage against Joe Biden, which is a new type of behavior from her. Listen to some of that. We got Oversight Committee with a new letter out to Pam Bondi saying it's time for you to consider these null and void. Hopefully you're looking into it. And hopefully Pam and Cash are just rounding up gobs of evidence that they can disclose to Congress, because thus far it's been mostly the whistleblowers. Heard from them, heard from James Comer, and had a beautiful early stream today, my friends. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for being here, and thanks for sending in some donos and your love and your support. We really appreciate that. And members, stick around. We're going to have an after party. We'll debrief, do some members only business, and then we'll call it a day. Of course, tomorrow we're going to have a members only Saturday stream, and my beautiful bride, Alexis, will be joining us, and we'll, I think we'll do like half hour of some politics stuff, and then she'll come join us, and we'll do a little Q&A. So if you're a membo, stick around for that. If you're not a membo on YouTube or on Locals, tomorrow we are going to stream that on Substack as well with no paywall. So if you want to come over and join us, head over to Substack so we can share that with you there. And we're live over there as well. So check that out if you want to join us and you're not a membo. We'll see you over there. But my friends, it's a beautiful Friday. And now it's time to hear from you. Thank you for being here. And one more plug for our friends, the Whistleblowers. Links in the description below. Also, you can go to Truth versus Power. Grab this book. It's pre-order right now. And I just got my copy, so I'm going to start reading it. But we've talked to these guys at Empower Oversight and the guys who represented the whistleblowers. And Tristan and Jason Foster were on the channel. And we're going to see if we can talk to these two gentlemen themselves, Gary and Joseph Ziegler. Gary Shapley, Joseph Ziegler, the dudes who blew the whistle on the Hunter Biden scam, were very important in bringing us the truth. And so they've got a new book out. They're making the rounds, and it'd be great to support them because we love our whistleblowers. All right, so now, my friends, let's see who is here and what you say about all of this. Membos, stick around. We're going to debrief. We'll poke around. We'll see what else is happening out there on the day. But we got some great comments in the house. What's going on? This one is starting us off from Run Mead. Hey, Run Mead, thank you for the heads up on that. I think YouTube's coming in loud and clear. Hopefully it is. Thank you, Run Mead, though, for the heads up. Mike Story, what's up? 7 months as a membo. Says, filibuster, do we have the votes? Yeah, I'm not so sure that I'm down. I know Trump came out today and said, nuke the filibuster. I don't know about that. I think I'd rather have the government continue to be closed rather than nuke the filibuster. Like, all right, just keep it shut down. I think would be the preferable outcome. But we'll see what Trump's post does to shake loose maybe some Republicans to change that. I don't know. But it makes me nervous because if the Democrats, God forbid, ever do get control, which they probably will at some point, I mean, if we just think about it, then they might really take full advantage of that. And I like the Senate being the cooling saucer of the whole thing. I like more roadblocks, not less. And right now, the only consequence is a shutdown of the government, which in many ways should be shut down. Object Class Keeter. These ghosts might be Dem voters protesting, probably. Yeah, they were all probably going to cast a ballot for Kamala. Thank you, Object Class. The RP Games, what's up? RP Games bringing in 10 new membos. Zach Guy, welcome. Anthony Muma. Kim Jong-un, who's here, who also says, I love thick girls and nukes. I believe he does. Probably. Hey, Baby Cakes 420, what's up? Don Stout is here. Terry Ann Bernier. We got MTQ. We got Lil Mama in Texas. Lil Mama in Texas, welcome. We got Nurse D, Stephen 005, Stephen 005, all gifted membos. We'll see you in the after party. We're going to debrief and hang out for a bit after the show if you are a membo. Sean McAlvery. What's up, Sean? Yeah, if Verizon is your carrier, you should switch fast since they sold out their customers so fast and easy to Jack Smith. Yeah, that's a good point. And I don't know what plan I'm on. I don't even know what it is. I'm on Verizon. Oh, gosh. Oh, gosh. All my contacts are probably hacked. Thank you, Sean. I am on Verizon. I forgot. Which one am I on? Oh, yeah, it's Verizon. Yeah. All right. I better change it. Thank you for that, Sean McAlvery. Yeah, they bent over like nothing. Here you go. And their remediation wasn't that interesting either. They're just like, well, we're just going to make sure that senators don't get spied on anymore. Does that make you happy? They're like, yeah, that's good. We want it for everybody. Hey, GTKA Steve. Thank you, GTKA Steve in the house. Bringing in 5 more membos. What's up? Seagull Gunner is here. We got Sergeant Grinch, Minimal Law Ledge, welcome. Dion Hayes, and Rainbow Dash 459, all gifted membos, courtesy of GTKA Steve. Thank you, Steve, for that one. 33 months as a membo, Jennifer. Thank you for being here. Happy Halloween. Have a safe night. Indeed, my friends. It's going to be a beautiful night. No doubt about it. Your boy didn't dress up today because that requires creativity and foresight. This old guy, Boasberg, probably will try to hold AT&T in contempt. He's a disgrace as a judge. Yeah, maybe. You disclosed my illegal order. Now you're in trouble. That's funny. It's not, wouldn't surprise me for a minute. What's up, DC Metro? Thank you, DC. Thank you for the dono. No comment on that, but we really appreciate you supporting the work and being a membo. You're amazing. Milo Phone Bill, did Judge Boasberg use an auto pen to sign all the subpoenas? There were so many of them. Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, maybe. But I think his mental capacity, he probably has a better chain of custody if he used an auto pen or an electronic signature or something. But I think what we saw was his actual signature. Let's take a look. What does this look like? Like ink and pen? Where was that? That was that. Where did it go? Didn't we just see it? Order. There it is. Boasberg. Yeah, that looks like an ink and pen, right? But I guess that's the point of the auto pen. You can't really tell. Anyways, who knows? Thank you for that one coming in from Milo. Rick D. Hey, Rob. How would you react to this witness? A Detroit police officer showed up for a court hearing via Zoom wearing just his boxers. I saw that clip. Let me see if I can grab it real fast. You see, I'm going to search Twitter for pants and just see if this comes up. And it did. Look at that. One word search. Just got to search for pants. All right, here it is. So here's what went down. And I think they blurred it out over here, so we don't get to see anything. But this is pretty funny. Thank you, Rick D, for flagging this.
Officer Jackson, badge number 3919, out of the 12th precinct.
Okay, you can see right here, they blurred it out. But I saw the original. He's wearing boxers, but you can see, like, there's his knee. Like, he's not naked, I'm pretty sure. If he is, I didn't see anything. But I'm pretty sure he's in his boxers, and he's just testifying, right? So it's professional on top, party on the bottom, right? As they say.
Officer Jackson.
All right, so yeah, he says no. He just picked, it was a little bit of a wide angle.
Officer Jackson, okay, Miss Lee.
They just move on. So yeah, you got to put the camera a little higher, okay? It's a wide angle lens. It's going to capture the whole thing, including your boxers. Anyway, it's pretty funny. At least he wasn't naked, and at least he wasn't doing what that other Lubin Tubin was doing. Good to see you, Rick. Hey, Sassy Gemini says, hey, forgive me for sharing a personal post. I honor my son whenever I can. Today would have been my youngest son, Jason Tyler's 35th birthday. What's up? Happy birthday, Jason. He passed away in 21 from aggressive lung cancer. Man, that's terrible. Growing up, he was about 7 or 8 years old. He believed Halloween was actually a big celebration for him. Rest in beautiful glory, my son. Jason Tyler would have been 35 today. Rest in peace to Jason Tyler. What a good-looking young boy right there. And a handsome man. Rest in peace. He's up there hanging with our family and my bro up there. They're probably talking crap about me right now, but we'll see him later, but not yet. The Verizon. Hey, this old guy says, Verizon is absolutely lying. They are using clerks to resolve subpoenas. Right. Maybe it's like some foreign worker in the Philippines or something. He's like, yeah, no, this is great. No one at Verizon even looked at the documents beyond looking at the phone number and responding as quickly as possible. This is a stupid way to handle legal service as a telecoms carrier. I've personally responded to exactly these types of subpoenas served on my company, and every one gets substantial review just for this reason. Right. Which is why I was thinking that there's somebody who's just voluntarily complicit. Like, oh, perfect. These are all Republicans. Hand them out. Rick D, what's up, Rick D? Thank you for bringing these in. Gianna Norman, welcome. Foxy Dog, Itchy Paws, Friday with Foxy, welcome. Demon J, Mike Hackett is here. Paul Borbely, welcome. Darth Kitty, good to see you. Ryan Cheek is here. Spidely, Alexa Cook, and Bernie's Book Tour, all gifted membos, courtesy of Rick D in the house. Thank you, Rick, and welcome 10 new membo friends. We'll see you in just a few minutes on the members only sesh coming up. Bucky's is Rome. Said, yeah, regime change is inbound. I mean, keeping my eye on that, trying to see if they said it was imminent, like it could be in hours or days. And I thought, well, I wonder if that's a little Halloween surprise. But yeah, they're there. Like all of our equipment is down there in the region. E. Texley says, yesterday, Kyle Seraphin pointed out, he's on X, that I think former FBI agent, that the G5 airplane Kash Patel uses was parked in San Antonio. Did Patel personally fire the guy, sack the sack? That is the office that handles cases where Seraphin lives. That is interesting. Yeah. Yeah, because that story was in Texas, right? 22-year veteran. He was at the San Antonio field office. Yeah, there it was. San Antonio last year. Named to post in San Antonio. Interesting. Yeah, interesting. Good eye on that one. Kyle Seraphin over on X. I am Divine Creation. Local elections is how we lost our government. Take back local government or lose the country forever. Get involved and vote. Yeah. I think involvement is very important. Very important. And a lot of our, I think, problems would not exist if we had a more active citizenry in our own civic affairs. There's a civic virtue. There's this tapestry of society that we weave by our involvement in our self-governance. If we're not going to govern ourselves, then that means other people will govern us. So I couldn't agree more. And a lot of, I think, our culture has moved towards politics is dangerous. Politics is toxic. You can't do anything. You can't change anything. Just worry about, making money and sports and orgasms or whatever. Like it's just constant. No. If we cared more about our self-governance, then maybe we would hold our elected officials to higher standards. We'd have people governing us with integrity. We'd be outraged every time there's fraud or an abuse of power. Many of us are, but you could just imagine, what if our numbers were doubled or tripled? Then a lot of these people wouldn't even be in power anymore because people would realize they're corrupt. And why? I remember in grammar school, the New York City mechanical voting machine, they were the pride of New York State. New York City bought the machines and were apparently good for 100 years. Bring back the lever voting machines. Yeah, versus the mystery black box where everything gets dumped into and it just spits out a result with rigged algorithms. Elf, what's up? Elf, ELF in the house, bringing in 10 membos. James A. Fish, what's up? Robert Catlett, we got Patriot 1111. Reed's Nest, Scott Cohen, what's up? To Connor B. Grifton, trademark, Darkborn, CL Museum, Night Watchman, Richard Jack, all gifted membos. We'll see our new membos in just a few minutes. What's up? Real with Robo. Hey, Robin Alexis, may your moccasins make happy trails. Wow, that's interesting. Moccasins. We have to get some moccasins so we can make some happy trails, if I think that's what it means. Real with Robo, thanks for being here for 20 months, my man. We've been through a lot together. We appreciate you. Over 2 babies. Cardinal O'Flanagan says, Pelosi seems to have her finger in the pulse of the stock market. Finger in something. Why doesn't she pony up the dough? If she only pays for people legally in the country, probably got that much just in her pocket. Well, yeah, because I think she's trading on inside knowledge, because she's a congresswoman. She just gives it over to her husband. He's like, oh, perfect. That military company is going to get a big contract. Perfect. Thank you. Robert Shelton, what's up? See you in a minute. Robert Shelton, becoming a new member. Great to have you, Robert. We'll see you in a second. I am Divine Creation. If we can keep the government shut down for 61 days, we can make furloughs permanent, which gets rid of the DEI hires. Then we can hire new based on merit for essential only government positions. Yeah, like I'd rather ride the shutdown than, but I don't work for the government. I'm not furloughed. I'm not one of these 41 million people who need SNAP benefits or whatever. So it's easier for me to say that, of course. Obviously, we want air traffic controllers and our soldiers to be paid for and all those essentials. But that versus nuking the filibuster and, potentially, the midterms might give the Senate back to the Democrats. The House, right, might go back to the Democrats in 18 months. So it makes me just very nervous. I'd rather just ride the shutdown down and just make the Democrats fold. Otherwise, you do exactly this and just start shredding the size and scope of the government. There's clearly an infrastructure problem. So, let's say we don't have SNAP for 60 days or 90 days or something. Maybe that will give us time to address the problem that we have 40 million people who need to eat from the government. It's not good. This old guy says it's not in alignment with America. That is more, communistic. It's redistributive of money and resources to a huge portion of our populace. It's not good. And our people, all of us, should be able to work and our dollar not being stolen away from us so that we can actually have productivity in America and have things in America, not hollow it out. So we're going to get you a bunch of cheap Chinese crap, though. Oh, that's great. I can't buy a home, but I can order a bunch of stuff from Temu. When I hear anyone, says this old guy, say white people, blah, 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 my auditory organs just shut down completely. Yeah. Everything that comes after that, you can pretty much presume is going to be idiotic. And it was. She says, if I eat your white food, which I don't even know what it is. What is white food? Is it English food? Like beans with your breakfast kind of a thing? Is that what we're talking about? That gives them the runs. Officially, Milo Phone Bill says the prepaid migrant cards, officially the immediate response card pilot, is 100% funded by the New York City municipal budget, not federal or state grants. It's interesting to note that the New York City is running a structural budget deficit at $2.6 billion. Yeah, but I'm sure just like with the Medicaid stuff, right? Money's fungible. So if they get that SNAP money from the feds, do they move it around? Or some other benefits they move around? With cumulative gaps of $4.8 billion through fiscal year 29, the New York State cannot independently pay its full SNAP program without federal funding. Yeah. So similar to what we saw with Medicaid and California, right? Hey, Rick D, apparently there is a group in North Carolina paying people to vote Democrat. According to the text, this started being arranged during the No Kings rally. Interesting links over there, Rick D. Yeah, maybe we'll get into those tomorrow or in the members only sesh. E. Texley, isn't that funny that Nebraska jumped out to be the first to ban sugary beverages? Warren Buffett's funds have large holdings in Coke and Heinz. The high fructose corn syrup probably provides quite a market for corn grown in Nebraska. I guess there are still honest people in state government. Yeah, and that just makes total sense. I mean, if you've got obesity and diabetes, it's a major problem. Maybe you don't feed people Coke and Skittles. Charles W. Jansen, a.k.a. Chuckamania, says Biden endured many vacation days at the beach. That's right. That's right. And I guess he was active and focused and fact-based when he was laying on the beach, soaking up the sun. Kamala needs to keep Trump's hammer out her mouth. Yeah. G-Man, thank you for that. Yeah. She said some bad words today. Hey, Jay Marino. Yeah, did Word Salad, this is a great catch. Did Word Salad just admit that her campaign was trying to find the 200,000 votes? Wasn't Trump prosecuted for asking the Georgia governor to find votes? It's a great point, Jay Marino, and I should have brought that up, but that's exactly right. It's the same language. Remember they threw a fit over that? Trump called, hey, just find 11,000 votes. Kamala just said, we're not going to find 200,000 votes. Did they charge her with insurrection? No, they didn't. Trino Galaxy. Can we charge these lying butts with contempt of the American people? I think we could charge them for conspiracy against rights of the American people, just like they did against Trump. Make the same claim, use the same charges against him, against them, and imprison them accordingly. Now, do they have contempt of the American people? Yes, of course. Off-Label Podcast. Thank you for that, Trino Galaxy. Off-Label Podcast says Dearborn, Michigan has become a terrorist haven. The Somalis in Ohio are trying to take over the state. We really are in trouble. Yeah, and I think we saw the dude running for mayor waving the Somalian flag around yesterday. And then also speaking in Somalian. In America. Sick times. Jay Marino. John, foreign invaders with foreign flags. And we have them taking over cities now. Jay Marino says John Roberts must have started self-medicating after learning that Boasberg ruled that Ted Cruz will likely destroy evidence and tamper with witnesses. The Supremes will have no way out of this one. Don't worry about enough content for your streams for the next 5 years. I think that's true. We do. Our problem is there's too much to cover. It's like, man, what should we talk about? I want to talk about this. I want to talk about this. I have all these tabs and other, browsers. I'm like, oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. And then something else pops. So there's a lot. This old guy. But her staff interrupted that interview and cut it short as soon as Kamala started having difficulty with those questions. However, the clip of the interviewer complaining that she'd never been treated that way, which was previously published, has been strangely deleted. Has it? I was looking for that one. She deleted that? What a weenie. This old guy. I was looking for that one on her page and I didn't see it. I'm like, where'd it go? I thought I had it queued up in my list, but she deleted it, huh? Pfft, weak. Well, this old guy says, well, the way Joe served from the beach was definitely less difficult than campaigning would be, unless, of course, you can do it from your basement. Yeah, that's true. I mean, he had a nice little grift going on there. Nobody knew where he was. He never talked to anybody. AutoPen was running the country. No, he had the capacity to be president. I mean, we had him in the closet for the last 4 years, so just do that again. Then he comes out. He's dying of cancer. Like, oh, gosh. RBI Sports. Cheers. Cheers to you, RBI Sports. 10 months as a member. Says, looking good for the MAGA team. It's true. It's the golden age, baby. We are entering and in the golden age. And it takes a little while to warm up, but we're doing it. My friends, thank you so much for sending those donos in and for being here. You're amazing. Let's see if we got any comments over on X. Hopefully we are live over there. Couple of comments. Dropping all of our shorts over there this morning too. Hey, Max K. Awesome. Good to see you. Hey, thanks from the UK for all your coverage, Robert. Thanks for watching, Max, over in the UK. Shout out to our UK friends. And we appreciate you being here. Freedom Print Shop. Kamala also said her campaign manager couldn't find more than 200,000 votes. Another great comment. And we got Neuro D sending our friends over to Rumble if you want to watch over there. And of course, that's where we're at on X if you want to join us there. But we're going to have some members only time, my friends. And the Rubos say the deed is done, baby. We did it. Rob and Alexis have tied the knot. We've entered into a blessed covenant on October 25th, 1 week anniversary tomorrow. And to celebrate their divinely ordained union, we are extending this exclusive 35% discount for a 2-pack of our premium Rubo salt. It's called Fleur de Sel 9. To the Watcher family for Thanksgiving and Christmas holiday cooking. The sale ends December 30th. Order while supplies last. And this is the best salt. We use it here. Mama G uses it. It's great. It's from the bottom of the ocean. Autumn sale. Watchers, we see you. We appreciate you. So get some good salt. They also make great gifts, because there's a lot of unsophisticated salters out there. We're using Morton's and that store brand crap. You don't want it. The Rubos are amazing. Exclusively for the Watching the Watchers fam, head on over, use WTW35, save 35% off, and it's a great deal. RuboSaltShop.com. And man, you guys are great. We appreciate you. And the Rubos, they have the best prayers too. Good people, great salt, and we encourage you to get some. Hey, what's going on? Viva MAGA says, hey, Rob, I have been in meetings and conference calls the last couple of days and wanted to see if you went over the urinating judge in downtown Prescott. I have not. I did not. If so, which day? The body cam video was wild. Happy Halloween. Yeah, there was a judge in Arizona. I just saw this actually. And the body cam's pretty wild. She's urinating in public, man. I told you, I represented a lot of urinating in public. Scottsdale, they throw everybody out. Everybody just goes and pees. And it's a lot of women. I was talking about this earlier this week. I said it's a surprisingly large amount of women who are urinating in public. You're like, oh, dudes, you're just peeing all over the place. It's just true. We do. But women too, like you'd be surprised. They just, drop the skirt and just plop down like it's nothing. Like, dang, like how many times have you done that? Like aiming with their hips. It's like wild times. So you never see anything like it. Anyways, a judge in Prescott, Arizona, right on Whiskey Row, like right near the courthouse, walking around the courthouse probably, pulls her pants down, just starts peeing all over the place. The cops are like, this is disgusting. She resigned her judgeship, so she realizes. But people get drunk, people make mistakes. I get it. We try not to beat up on people who are, your boy is a recovered alcoholic, so I can understand it. Body cam video was wild. Yeah. So if you're going to go out and get smashed tonight, don't pee in the streets. Cops are going to be on the lookout for it. And it's a crime. Hey, watchers from NeuroD. I know we don't normally have raid gamers on Rumble, but Toomey is having a charity stream for Extra Life for Kids, supporting the Texas Children's Hospital. He's a good guy, doing what he can to help the kids. Thank you, Robin Watchers. And God bless. Man, that sounds good. So NeuroD. So Rumble friends, I think you're going to be heading over to Toomey, a charity stream for kids, Extra Life for Kids. So on Rumble, TOMBI, if you want to join, completely support that. And I like to get down on a game or two every now and then. What's the one I've been playing? The Rift Breaker. I like those base games where you basically turtle in and just build resources and stuff like that. It's a good one. But they're doing this one for charity. Wonder what they're playing over there. NeuroD, have some fun, man. Happy Halloween to you guys, and shout out to Charities for Kids. Terry Massey. A judge just ordered Trump to pay SNAP benefits. Yeah, well, we'll see what happens by tomorrow. That's an interesting ruling. Thank you, Terry Massey, for the heads up on that. And thank you for those donos, my friends. Very nice to have you here. So it's been a beautiful day, a beautiful stream. Thanks for joining us early. We will not be back this afternoon, but we will be back tomorrow for our members only stream, and it's after party time. So come and join us if you're a member. We'll spend some time together this afternoon, and see what else is going on out there. But we'll pause here for the weekend and wish you a very happy Halloween, whatever it is you're doing. Hopefully it's fun and safe and pleasant and enjoyable. It's been a great week. Really appreciate you being here. Thank you for subscribing to our channel if you haven't already done that. Big thank yous to our mods and meme smiths on the day. Thank you very much to K Bean and Carrie B clipping for us this morning. We got Donut, Mind Me, John McGarvey, Muffin Rando, NeuroD, Janek, Dog Digger, our friends Geegum Geegum, Elliot, Docmaster, Just Rhonda, aka sassy Gemini in the house, modding the fort down for us all week long. If you want to join us tomorrow and you're not a membo, then you can connect with us on Substack. Link is in the description below, where we will also live stream this so that more people can join us. But we got couple final comments. Yeah, RBI Sports, God bless and stay balanced in all things. Great advice, RBI Sports, and good advice for a Halloween evening and weekend out there. Stay balanced in all things. And Paul Allen, what's up, Paul Allen? 5 months as a membo. Said, I worked for Verizon Business. Capitol Hill used Verizon. Yeah, and apparently that was not a smart play. They should have been on AT&T, which has a little bit higher legal quality than anything we saw out of Verizon. Like, oh, sure, it's a Republican? Here. What else can we give you? Sick. All right, so Paul, thank you for that. Thanks for being here 5 months. Over halfway to a baby, making some progress. We appreciate you. So we'll pause here, my friends. It's a beautiful Friday. Membos, stick around. We're going to hang out. We're going to debrief, spend some time together where things are a little bit more intimate. We can let our hair down. So come and join us on YouTube or on Locals. We'll see you there. Grab the Whistleblowers book. Thank you for supporting them. They're good dudes. They've got great people behind them, and they brought us the truth. So make sure, if you can and you're interested, the book is getting released in a week or two, but they've got an Audible. It's on Amazon if you want to listen to it. Grab the Audible, and then we hope to connect with those dudes soon too as well, because they're doing good work out there. They're now in the Treasury. I mean, they're now working with the Trump administration. So good stuff. All right, so we'll pause here, my friends. It's been a beautiful day and a beautiful stream. Thanks once again for joining us early. I hope the rest of your day is just outstanding. Membos, stick around. We'll pause here for the weekend. We'll have our wedding stream tomorrow with some politics before that tomorrow. And hopefully you can join us on Substack or as a membo. But my friends, until we're back here on Monday, I want to wish you the best weekend you can possibly imagine. I hope that you are getting outside, getting some fresh air, soaking up that vitamin D, spending time with family, friends, all the people that we love, going for a walk, enjoying 2 scoops of ice cream, resting, restoring, rejuvenating your body, your spirit, your soul, so that when we come back on Monday, we can get into it again. And in order to do it appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Happy Halloween. We'll see you right back here on Monday. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, my beautiful friends. Now it's that time where the stream must end. You brought the heat with every chat and line. Together we expose corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. Because together we are watching the watchers. Truth on our side. Watching the watchers. We won't be denied. Watching the watchers. Eyes open wide. Fighting for freedom with nothing to hide. Drop a like and don't forget to share. And bring a friend who's ready to care. Tomorrow's lies are just today's news, but here we see through the scripted ruse. Together we are watching the watchers shine in the light. Watching the watchers defending what's right. Watching the watchers still